right, we got Charles Cifarelli in today, corrections officer, the man who went to all lengths to find the dog Star, who was shot in the face, then maced, then went into waste recycling, found Star, and turned the Star into just a wonderful thing for kids and people with Alzheimer's and many other things. Thank you for coming in, Charlie.
Thank you, Tommy. Glad to be here, and I'm glad we're talking about my favorite topic, Star.
Yeah, beautiful thing. Crazy story, crazy story. Now, you grew up in New York, right? How was it growing up?
You know, I had a little bit of a rough start. I started off in East Harlem. Was born in East Harlem Clinic. My parents didn't have any money when I was born, and started out there and went up in Astoria, Queens. But things got better geographically because we moved to Long Island somewhere before I became a teenager.
And do you have any brothers or sisters?
I've got one brother.
One brother.
Yeah, younger.
What, is he in New York?
No, he's out here. He's a Floridian.
Is he in Florida?
He's a Floridian.
What's he doing in Florida?
He does music for all the restaurants, the big name restaurants. He supplies the music installation, and that's what he does.
Tom, turn him up a little bit. Okay, so how was your upbringing with your mom and your dad?
Tommy, it wasn't good after probably about 6 or 7 years old. I had a father that was a rageaholic, and they gave me a few good years in there, you know, growing up in Astoria. My father had a cool 64 convertible. We actually made it out to Woodstock, didn't get in. My parents were pretty jovial, and they were okay. And then, of course, things changed once we moved out of the city and moved into Long Island.
Now, your father in '56, he was arrested, right?
He was arrested with infamous Joseph Imbruglia, better known for the French Connection and the synthetic heroin ring. Back in 1980, the FBI was looking for him.
And now, how did that affect you growing up?
Well, it affected me that my father had done a bunch of time before I was born. And, you know, he had become more of a street guy than a loving bedside manner guy. So it didn't take long after I was out of diapers to see another side of him.
Now, you had a dog when you were 20, right? In your 20s?
I had
and
a
it was
dog.
a pit bull. And
Yes.
you were living out of a van.
I was living out of a van.
Now, why were you living out of a van?
Tommy, I just went down a wrong neighborhood. I mean, it started out with, you know, I wanted to have a career in the NYPD. I took the test. I did everything I was supposed to. But I didn't follow through. I didn't have the support at home from my father, who was really didn't want me to become a police officer.
So then you just move out?
What happened was I did everything that was not going towards that goal. I started bouncing at a big nightclub in Long Island called Malibu. I started lifting weights. I wound up getting injured. I wound up getting hooked on some pain pills. I'm drinking. It's a mess. And instead of having direction, I was a free-for-all.
Oh, okay. So you had no moral direction, support,
No,
whatever. So you were
no.
it was just like all over the place type
Yeah.
of thing.
It felt good, smelled good, it tastes good. I just went for it.
Now, the dog that you had, the pit bull,
Yes.
it got hit by a car, right?
2 cars, Tommy.
2 cars.
2 cars, Tommy. You know, when we're on a descent, we normally take out all those around us that are innocent too. I mean, look, I had this dog that I wound up getting from East New York. The dog came from a bad environment, had a soda delivery route, and I bought the dog for $70 on this route, and it became my companion. Well, when I hit bottom and I wasn't delivering soda no more, and I was holed up in my apartment on Atlantic Avenue in Freeport, we had hit bottom with no food. And eventually my father, who's a rageaholic, showed up banging on the door. He banging on the door. I opened the door. I wanted to get away from him. And I ran across 4 lanes of traffic, and my dog got hit by 2 cars. The first car knocked the dog down. I thought the dog was gone. When I turned around, he got back up, got hit by a second car. So that starts this scenario. But luckily, the dog lived. And my father, 2 guys that couldn't get along, at that moment we got along. And he pulled his car in the middle of the 4-lane highway. We picked the dog up, put it in the back of his car, and we headed to the emergency vet. But the dog was taken from me because my parents said, you can't take care of yourself. You're going to allow nobody to do well next to you, so we're going to take the dog. And I lost the dog.
Because at this time, you had a little bit of a problem, right?
Oh, big problem.
Bad?
Yes.
And what was your drug of choice?
My drug of choice was everything, but more selectively is I was in pain, so it started with pain pills. Then I went to dope. And, you know, the alcohol kind of got faded out because I felt as though it kind of made me, sloppy. I just wanted to feed this monster inside me that was inextinguishable.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine. He just got back surgery,
Yes.
and they put him on pills. And he works for me, so I'm paranoid myself that he's gonna get. He's not into drugs or anything like that. I mean, he's as straight as an arrow. But when you get back surgery like that, you're in pain. They give you the Roxys, the Oxys, the Perks. So I'm really on him to make sure he doesn't, fall down that path of the addiction because of the pain. You know what I mean? That's kind of sounds like how it started with you.
And it's an invisible line. And for those that are not have an addictive personality, maybe that line is further distinguishable. But for myself, who from the first time I had a Hostess cupcake at 7 or 8, I wanted 10 of them. So there's never been one of anything with me. So I got a one-track mind, and I crossed that line. And then my body became needed. It needed to be medicated. So it was a bad spot.
So you're an extremist, whether it's drugs, work, whatever it may be, like Star.
Like
Star. You went through hell to find Star.
And then back.
And then hell and back to find Star.
Yeah.
So whenever you do something, whether it's, drugs, alcohol, business, whatever it may be, you go all the way.
All the way, Tommy.
There is no off.
I want all of it or none of it.
Yeah. Now, do you think that part of the reason why you got so hooked onto the drugs was because of your upbringing?
Tommy, I did not have a gentle upbringing, and I'm not making my story any different than anybody else's, but I had a father that was an angry guy, and he was wiry, and he was crazy. And some examples of him being crazy was, he started getting into some rage one time, and my mother literally in a parking lot jumped out of the car, and it was like a cartoon because she didn't fall down. She kind of caught up to the run, and she stood up, and he says, "Oh, you stood up, huh?" And he spun the car around and clipped her with the car. He didn't mow her down, but he knocked her down.
She jumped out of the car while it was moving?
Yeah, she did.
Wow.
And we'll get into it later. I wound up doing the same thing, but it must be in the DNA. When we have enough.
You guys just like to jump out of cars.
When we have enough, we just got to leave. So that was one instance, and then another instance was, I wasn't using the pool in the backyard that he put up, and it annoyed him, and he harpooned it with an old-fashioned edger. He went in the corner of the pool, and the line just kept on hitting it from like he was going after a whale, and the 15,000 gallons of water just blew out the basement window. All the water went down. It was just crazy. So I had a father that was real volatile, and I was always nervous being around him. And you just don't get away from that and feel good right away. So that was part of my upbringing.
Were you nervous because, you never knew what you were getting?
Never knew what I was getting. And then, Tommy, it helped later on with my food addiction because there was only a little bit of time you had at the dinner table. My father was not an eater. He really could care less about food. He was a lean guy, and my mother wasn't a great cook. And if there was some water in the spaghetti, he'd throw the plate in the sink.
Wow.
And if I was still eating it, that would signal to him that I'm making him look stupid. He'd fling the table. So I learned to eat like in 90 seconds. I was in the military.
Yeah. Well, it makes me feel like I don't have a temper at all.
Well, let's not use him as a baseline.
As a gauge?
No, let's not use that. No.
So now, what happened that you stopped the drugs? What clicked that you were like, okay, this is enough. Enough is enough.
Well, it's simple. Let's get to the meat and potatoes, the darkness of this story. Because the good thing about this story is there's darkness, but then there's a lot of light. Tommy, when you mess up and you have a father that's a dangerous guy and he's involved with people that are dangerous, you don't get caught in Nassau County in the suburbs looking for drugs. You just don't. I was fearful that he'd know that I crossed the line. So I had a soda delivery route in East New York. He had a concrete plant that was bordering East New York. And I went into this neighborhood because I knew where stuff was. And if I wanted dope, to sniff dope, that's where I was going. And I survived this. I mean, they made documentaries about this neighborhood, the 7-5.
And is that how you met Mike?
That's how I met Mike Dowd, but not at the time. Not at the time. How that would happen is Mike was infamous at the time, and he was legend on the street, not for, being a hero cop, but for being an infamous cop. So, as life would have it, and I would hear of him, and we would both go two separate directions. He would go to a prison and I would go to a prison, but different prisons and different sets of situations. He wouldn't have the keys. I would have the keys. And then going.
Funny how it works out like that, hey?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the way it worked.
I was
out.
the cop on the outside, and he was the bad guy on the outside, technically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's how it worked. So what happened was I got really in a bad place, and and I'm not taking anything away from anybody else, but if you can survive East New York in the 80s and early 90s as a citizen and come out of that from a kid from the suburbs, I mean, I don't know how it happened, but it did. So
It's like a badge of honor.
it's about, you know what, it is, you know what, you kind of go, I kind of chuckle because I would be, later on in life, I'd be working in corrections and I hear guys tell me they had a tough neighborhood. Listen, neighborhoods are all tough now. I mean,
Sure.
I mean, guns are all over. I mean, I don't want to minimize a bad neighborhood, but the thing was, I had survived a neighborhood that spit people out and they were gone. And Tommy, I'm an actor by life because I wasn't given technical skills where I could do something wrong to get drugs like fraud, or I could do stuff like shoplift. I had to become likable and understandable and be able to connect with people. And that's what I did, man.
Could you read? Could you write? Were you talented?
I was talented verbally, talented. I could read and remember stuff. But as far as writing, I couldn't write. That's another thing, good old Star. I mean, this dog is famous, and people write to me. And I couldn't write, Tommy.
Are you dyslexic?
No, I'm not, but I just didn't take any English, I guess. So I would write a sentence, and I just didn't look right to me, because I read a lot.
If it makes you feel better, I can't pronounce things to save my life. So, I mean, if that makes you feel any better, my grammar's about as worse as it could possibly be. I mean, I'm working on it, but,
Yeah,
so, I mean,
it's a process.
Yeah.
But
So you say how dangerous it was for you as a cop in the neighborhood. By the way, Mike Dowd here as a sidekick to Tommy's show, as I seem to have become lately. As a cop, dangerous is we see bodies, we climb over bodies, we go to the next body. But I don't know what it's like to be a civilian and be in the same, because it's totally different. As a cop, you're in control, you're in charge, you show up at a dangerous scene. Charlie, you are the scene.
yes,
You are the scene that cops roll up to.
yes.
But how do you identify now you were in corrections, you look back, the scenes that I roll up to, they were created by people like you in some manner. So what were some of the things that you, like how loaded or how dangerous or how did it get for you? What were you doing? Were you robbing people at gunpoint? Were you jumping over bodies? Were you involved with beatings? I mean, we have a friend named Gordo and Eddie we both worked for Gordo and Eddie at some point.
Yeah, it's you're describing the area. You are right. You do become part of the scene. Guys from Long Island are routinely beaten or killed, I guess, using drugs and found overdosed. I just at the time, man, I was about a 230-pound guy, and I was a tough son of a bitch. I'm not gonna minimize that one bit, man. I had so much rage in me. My hands were like, I put my hands through a lot of stuff, and I got challenged in the neighborhood. But quickly, these guys that normally don't deal with guys like me said to themselves, "You know what? This guy's not a typical guy." They were robbing a block one time, the whole block. They had pillowcases, and they had everybody on the block down. And the guy who was leading this charge was a man named Anthony T. Santiago. Been shot 5 times with an off-duty correctional officer. He had a colostomy bag. His family had bodegas in the East New York,
I'm sure.
and he was a mean guy. He looked like Tuco, but much bigger. And
For Tuco, who I don't
from
know.
the Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Okay.
From the Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not a movie guy, but
So,
maybe one day.
Tommy, I mean, I went to get down because I didn't want to get shot, but I was slow about it.
Right.
You don't want to get your knees dirty. You fucking.
So,
Yeah.
so I didn't want to get down, but Santiago comes up to me. He says, "Get up." He says, "What's your name?" I said, "Well, I got a street name. I go by Chase." He says, "Where you from, man?" I said, "Well, I'm a city guy, but I live in Long Island now." He says, your old man part of this neighborhood? I said, well, yeah, he is. He got a block company. He says, we know he is. He says, we're not taking nothing from you. And I became friendly with this guy. And he was like the mayor of East New York. And it was amazing how this guy. So he would tell me when we were together, Charlie, there's no difference with me and you. We're just trying to find our way with no directions. And this guy had an addiction just like I did. And he was the black sheep of the family. And his family stayed in East New York because they were from East New York. The main thing about East New York is there's a lot of good people there. There's a lot of great citizens that are from East New York, and they're not going to throw a towel in. But here's what addiction does to you, Tommy. At some point, he put a gun in my ribs. And I remember that day. He says, I'm sorry, I got to do this to you. Empty your pockets.
This is the guy that let you get away already once.
Yeah. Now he robbed
Became
me.
your friend.
Yes.
And then he robbed you.
Then he put a gun in. And Tommy, I said to myself, I'm going to live to fight another day. There was nothing I could do. He was smart enough not to give me any room. He didn't put it 2 feet away. It was in my ribs, pointed up through my lungs to my heart. He knew what he was doing. So he did this to me.
Oh, he had to point it up?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you were a dead man.
If I moved, I would have been a dead man.
Yeah.
So this guy with the smelly colostomy bag, because he didn't change it anymore, he's the addiction. And this was the darkness. This was the darkness that this addiction got me in. So he got me. He got me. But I would visit his home, and his wife or girlfriend would open the door, and I'd go to the bedroom and take all the stuff that was his and put it in my vehicle.
Well, at least you got him back.
There was no way I was going to live with that scenario. So it was to the point with these guys that my ability to go in that neighborhood was getting less and less and less. Now, there's different, as Mike Dowd talks about it, there's different, in the 7-5 documentary, you got not just one guy in there. You got multiple guys plying their trade. So I don't know who Anthony T. Santiago was involved with, but the bottom line was he was one rough customer, and he had, as the addiction went, he had this smelly colostomy bag, and that started to show me that this was not working, but I wasn't done yet.
And at that point in the 80s, like Mike, when you were in, that's when crack was discovered.
Yeah.
During that time
by
period.
by the time he's having his problem, crack's already ravaged the neighborhood.
Oh, it's already everywhere. Okay. So you get that. So then, but what was it that clicked that made you stop everything and change your life?
Okay, here's the thing for addicts. The drug stops working. Eventually, you can't take enough to get out of the pain. And eventually, you either die from an overdose or the end's always the same for every addict, jails, institutions of death. So we have that going on. The neighborhood, part of the neighborhood would like to kill me probably. Then we also have them getting picked up by the NYPD for nuisance BS with, small amounts of drugs, loitering, nonsense. And then, of course, the Tactical Narcotics Task Force starts in about 1989. They're in the neighborhood now, and it's becoming impossible to go to the neighborhood that I used to sow my oats in. Okay, now that doesn't sound like fun for many people, but I was addicted to thrill. When you're in East New York, you know you could die any moment in the 80s. I mean, listen, it's not if you're going to die, it's the wrong circumstances. And that kind of thrilled me, man. I liked living on the edge like that. And, when you're 5'11", and you're 230 pounds, you look like a cop. And, I did everything to enhance that. I mean, I go to the auction, I'd have the Grand Fury, with the spotlight turned down.
You got to get me into some of these police auctions. Neither of you.
Yeah,
One of you.
I'm not allowed.
So it was that time.
I'm allowed.
I'm allowed.
So it was that, Tommy. But here's the good news. Here's the good news. There's going to be a miracle that's going to happen in the middle of this cesspool. And here's the main thing. I was the problem. There was no problem with East New York. They went about their business every day. I had the problem. I went to their neighborhood. Okay. So finally, I do get arrested by the 7-5, the Technical Narcotics Task Force. I decide that I'm going to still buy drugs, and I cop some dope on the street, Pickens Avenue, and I start sniffing it, and I see that the cops are coming. So I decide to roll my window up, put it in drive, and continue sniffing till I'm done. Well, they're pursuing me. And I start with these back roads, not back roads, but, just city streets. And I get onto Linden Boulevard, heading towards where Brookdale Hospital is.
Remember from the 7-5 movie, Pickens to Penn, Penn to Linden, Linden to Brookdale.
Yeah.
Remember I gave that? That's the same route you were on.
So now I'm on Linden Boulevard. No regard. I hit 100 miles an hour.
Just blowing as much as you can.
Just blowing as much as I can.
And getting chased.
And it was kind of like the Forrest Gump, okay? When he got done running, he just stopped.
Yeah.
The cops, I just stopped. And because they were in such pursuit of me, it was like kind of crooked and stuff as far as what happened. So I had more guns.
You didn't bail out and run?
No, I didn't. I was too lazy for that. So they had me
feeling high as a kite.
Yeah, feeling good, numb, and it's just brief. But at that point, I'm going to get some help, and I'm going to get help by about 14 NYPD officers, mostly undercover, with some big guns pointed at me through the windshield, through the side, through the back, and they take me out of the car. And there's one sergeant that takes control of the whole situation. And he looks at me. He goes, "You're not from here." I said, "No, I'm from Long Island." And he got pissed, man. He goes, "What are you doing? What are you going to kill?" He was pissed. He goes, "You got any family on the job?" I don't know why he asked me that. I mean, maybe people knew. And I had a cousin that had gone far up in the 80s. I think she was at least a lieutenant and heading to a captain. And I wouldn't give up her name. And so this sergeant had a personal bone to pick with me. He just had a hard time accepting that I was doing this. And
let me say something.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
He's right. And this is the reason I say that is because as a cop in Brooklyn, if we saw Long Island kids doing what he was doing, we would be pissed.
So the reason why he said, "Why are you here in Long Island? Why are you here?"
Yeah,
because where you're at is a drug area, and where you're from is clean.
You have no excuse
I have no
to be exposed to this. You have no excuse being in this life. You should be in a different life. You're not here. This shouldn't be your life. Your life should be why you live on Long Island is why you're not here. And that's why you shouldn't be
So in a sense, he was trying to help you out, saying, like, "Why are you here?"
Tommy, he
doesn't want it to be his own kid.
So Tommy, he said to me, "You got no drugs now. It's convenient, I got no drugs." He goes, "That's not going to help you." He goes, "You know why? Because you'll do this again. You're going to get arrested today. We're going to find whatever you threw out that window." And they made me wait. And they found residue on some glassine envelopes. And they arrested me.
Which could have been on any corner.
It could have been from anybody, really, right?
It could have been from anybody, but they brought me to the 7-5 precinct, and this was a different situation. They had taken over the precinct, it felt like. I was like looking for the regular guys, like the regular cops that I grew up with. That kind of, where are the regular cops? I mean, these guys were not regular. So I get put in the back cells. There's a row of black cells. I remember it was silver cells. And they had somebody to the cell next to me in the next cell. They moved everybody, so I was by myself. Then the sergeant came. And he said to me, "You think you're a tough guy, right?" He said, "I'm going to tell you right now. You got an attitude. I don't like it." He says, "You could leave here two ways. You could leave here in cuffs, going to central booking, or you could leave in a body bag."
That bad, huh?
He was that pissed.
Now, to portray how all this bad turned to good, so we're portraying the negative right now. So now, Mike, you were in the 7-5.
Right.
So when he says he went to the 7-5 precinct, when they arrested him, can you paint the picture of what that's like when he walks in?
Well, first of all, to your left is the big desk where the boss and all the hierarchy sits and commands the precinct. To his right, where you would initially come in to get processed, is a large day area where about 150 cops could be, soda machines, candy machines, just to get you through the day. And at any minute, if he's got 15 or 20 narcotics guys around him, there's also regular police business going on right at the desk, other arrests coming in, guns, drug arrests. But his whole scenario is they've got. I assume they have not just you. I don't know if they had just you arrested.
A few more.
The
guys.
narcotics had brought in a few. Usually
Yeah.
they bring in a half a van full of guys, 6, 8, 10 people at a time. But no, but it's different now. They did a chase with him, so that's. Sometimes they'll even have perpetrators in the vehicle while they're doing a chase. So I don't know. I wasn't at that scene.
What I mean is the violence. Is it very violent in there?
In the precinct?
Yeah, like where they took Charlie.
So I'm getting there.
Okay.
So and then off to the side is a separate entranceway into the cell block. And the cell block has got a tier on this side and a tier around it. So you have probably 20 cells in it. In fact, I was going to ask Charlie if someone offered to buy him any cigarettes and make money on you at that in the cells, because that's what it may have been me. Because I usually charge a vig if you wanted some cigarettes or candy or. Because it was $2.50 for a pack. I charged you $5.
I would expect nothing less, Mike.
But listen, you were getting what you wanted, and you would have paid $100 for those cigarettes at that point. So let's not get each other. So I'm just checking if that did anyone tip you that way?
No, they had it was a serious attitude.
Yeah. So then there's a holding cell, and then each individual cell. So you try to put one guy, but sometimes there's two in each cell, depending upon the volume of people there. And he would have been at one of those what they call like the sink. And the sink and the toilet are all connected in one, which many people have seen on movies. It's a silver sink, and there's a flat bunk bed there with nothing on it. There's nothing. It's just steel.
So
it's just
a rough
steel.
spot.
It was a rough spot.
And usually dirty, but not stinky dirty, but dirty.
But Tommy, I believe that. Here's what I believe. I don't think the cop would have crossed the line and killed me like he said he would, but he let me know that if I get stupid, that the use of force they would use.
I've seen a lot of people beat down in that area.
Yeah, it was clear. It was clear where this was going. Tommy.
In fact, I rescued a guy's life from in that room.
Yeah.
And he also might have been
him so bad.
And also, if it's not the cop doing that, it will be somebody else in the neighborhood doing that to you.
Correct.
So he was maybe giving you two messages at the same time.
He was, and I respect the guy to the moon now, because he knew what he was dealing with me. He knew if he was any less of a cop that day, and he bent the rules for me, I would never have the rest of my life that's going to come about. But the bottom line was, I got my last, Tommy, I'm a survivor, man. I need to really, I'm a survivor. I mean, that's the way I lived my whole life, in my household and the streets, and then down the road in corrections. I said to him at that point, I said, look, I do have family on the job. And there's a record of me.
Look, you don't want to get your ass beat.
Yeah.
You don't want to get your ass beat.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
yeah.
I do have family on the job. That's the cover.
Yeah. I did get in there, and that frustrated him more because it just wasn't. Because at some point it was just man to man, and then I said that.
Well, it made you look cocky, is what it did.
Yes, and then ultimately what happened was, I don't know how it happened, and Mike might talk about it. Somehow they got me out of. He left. They got me out of the cell. They put me in a van. And they brought me to the 9-0 precinct in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And now things are going to get a little ugly, because when you went to the 9-0, they had these cells loaded up with a lot of people that were kicking drugs. And now I'm in a cell, and the drugs are kicking, and I'm feeling bad, and I'm amongst guys that really, really smell. Now here's something a little footnote.
So real quick, so you're in a cell, or you're with multiple guys that are all withdrawing like crazy, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen.
That doesn't sound too fun.
It's not appealing. But I wound up at the 90th precinct then.
Yeah.
And then at least one thing, the doors closed with the sergeant wanting to get me. We closed that out. And I'm moving towards a better life. I mean, it's not starting off better right there, but I'm moving towards a better life.
Okay. Now, where and when did you end up in solitary confinement? Was it this time? Because you ended up there, or no, that was when you started working at the correctional office, right?
Yes.
So now the way you get to there is you meet a girl at a monastery. Is that how you say it?
No.
I told you my grammar's terrible.
Yeah, no, here's what happens, Tommy. I leave all this. I kick the drugs. Done.
So you don't get arrested?
I do get arrested, but there's no charge. I guess the 72 hours had expired, and there's 72 hours you have to be arraigned by, and it was it went bye-bye.
So the cops purposely made him miss his 72-hour deadline in order to give him the break. That's where the break comes in.
That's where the break comes in.
He gets the break.
That's where the break comes in.
His arrest record disappears, essentially. He's arrested, not charged. So now he gets out and goes where?
So now, Tommy, I get out. And here's the thing about addiction. As bad as it was, I wanted to go back in. I wanted one last get high. So so we talk about I'm living on Atlantic Avenue. The dog got hit by the car. Everything's bad. I want one more get high. So I get back on the train to go into Jamaica to take the train to East New York. And I got no money in my pocket. I'm playing that routine where you hide from the conductor. You
Just after your brother shot at you or before?
No, that's years earlier.
Okay.
No, the brother didn't shoot me. We pulled guns on each other outside in Merrick. We pulled guns on each other with my mother in between us, because my brother was a non-drug guy and he had saw me go down the drain, and at some point we just got pretty volatile. Now.
He had enough. Pulled a gun and said, "Charlie, look."
And then of course I pulled a gun.
Right.
So
Well,
at
Not
this
to be
point-
outgunned.
Not to be outgunned, and
Right.
and we're living in Long Island in a nice neighborhood, and my mother's in between both of us.
The senator's on one side and the police
yeah.
commissioner's on the other
We
side.
we got some notable people.
Wait, so you have your mom on this side.
in
Or,
between.
I'm sorry, you're on this side, your brother's here, and then your mom's in
the
between
middle.
with
In
two
between.
guns pointed.
Yeah, and you know, here's the crazy part. As crazy as drugs make you, he was that crazy without the drugs. And
Right?
we
Wow.
had some problems, man. So I was part of the addiction. Listen, it was a 5-year run. It was a lot of pain. It was a lot of ugliness. But ultimately, Tommy, I wind up at this monastery.
You end up on the train tracks. What happened at the train tracks?
So here's what's great about this. I took the test with a bunch of nice guys that went on to become cops and do the right job, what job I should have been doing. This one guy is a sergeant with the NYPD. He sees me in my pajamas. Tommy, when you're on drugs, you act out. I'm in my pajamas. I'm in these flip flops that are about $1 from the general store, from the hospital. You know, I'm living a mania. So I try to keep it together because I know this guy from school.
Did he have the
Trying
hospital?
to keep it together.
I'm trying to keep it together.
he have
Yeah,
that- did he
your
have those-
pajamas on. Hold on. He's got his pajamas on. Listen to this picture. He's on the elevated train station in Jamaica, Queens?
Yeah.
Okay. He's in Jamaica, Queens. He lives in Merrick. He's in his pajamas. He's wearing slippers that he didn't buy at the general store, that he probably got released from someplace.
Some hospital.
Yeah, some hospital slippers.
Did he get the socks though? You know, there's
The
Yeah,
rubber
these
socks.
socks-
Did you get the rubber socks?
But you know, so that's the same. That's the scene. And this cop, who's a straight-laced guy, to this day, never touched a drug. He's 6'4", 6'3". He's looking down at me. He's looking at me, and I'm trying to tell him it's okay.
No, he's just not some cop.
Yeah, no.
You worked out with him.
He's not some cop. I grew up with the guy. I worked out with the guy. We know each other from being clean-cut kids back in America, lifting weights together, talking about futures. We both went and took our, I guess it was 1175 exam. We had really beautiful outlooks of what we wanted to do. I grew up, I was in love with Beretta's show because Beretta got the bad guys. And he was just rogue enough that he interested me. And I loved that. And
Sort of like me, a little rogue.
and then, of course, Serpico. And then, you know, it's like the characters in certain movies I just gravitate towards. In American Gangster, it's that one good cop from New Jersey, man, that doesn't care how much money's in front of him. He is going to do the right thing. I wanted to be that guy. So this guy...
I'm sorry, and that's what that test was, the
75 was
1175 for people that don't know.
Yeah, it was 1175, and I started the hiring process with this guy.
And that's the test to become a police officer?
In New York City.
Okay.
So this guy goes on to become a New York City police officer. His brother becomes a 9/11. He lost his life due to 9/11 complications, and this guy himself was on the pile for 3 months. So the fact that this guy had the ability to connect with me to any level, he had the patience, but I bullshitted him. I wasn't ready to stop. So he leaves. Now I'm set to change my life forever. And anybody that's listening to this, if you're addicted, this is the roadmap out of addiction. I see this guy. He's looking at me at the train station. He's a peaceful looking guy. I'll later learn that his name is Michael. And he's looking at me. He walks over to me. And he knew I was hurting. And in about 2 minutes, he tells me his life story of addiction. That he was living in the Bronx in a refrigerator box, that the drugs had taken him to that level.
In a refrigerator box?
In an empty refrigerator box.
Not that bad for some.
Yeah.
And he says to me, I said, why are you telling me this? He goes, you don't look good. I said, am I going to die? I mean, he goes, you look like you got tombstones in your eyes. I was gray. My skin coloring was gray. I said, look, man, I've been to rehab. I've been out to Greenport. I've been to all these beautiful rehabs. I've been out to Allentown. I mean, I've been to places to get treatment. It doesn't work. He goes, of course it doesn't work. It's got a 97% failure rate. He goes, the only way you're going to get this is if you surrender your will and get a higher power. If you don't, you're dead.
Now, at this point, how long had you been
Clean?
addicted to drugs?
5 years.
5 years straight.
5 years straight.
And then this guy comes along,
Yes.
says this, and that was that the click?
Wait, so here it is, Tommy, and it's not so he tells me this, and a light bulb comes on. I'm saying, man, I can't get this. I said, thank you very much for the information. He goes, no, I'm not done yet. He goes, I was saved in a monastery in upstate New York in Graymore. I said, they take guys like me? He goes, they take everything from jailbirds to people looking for spiritual retreats and everything in between. He goes, write it down. I said, I don't need to. I got a memory like an elephant. I said, I got to go. So with that good information in my head, I said, I'll use that at a later date. I got to go get drugs now. I'm hurting.
Yeah,
and
right.
and
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about drugs. I was already off of them from the 9-0 detox to at least a week, living with the dog with no food. I had at least a week, but the mind wanted the drugs. So now, the evening's getting later. And I finally, with all these, with the sergeant, with the NYPD, with this guy telling me the story, I finally get on the J train, and I'm heading to East New York. And it's midnight. It's dangerous to go there with a running car. I'm going to be walking into East New York. I actually don't even get off the stop because I'm going back and forth fighting myself. Do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it.
Is this after the chicken?
No, the chicken's coming. The chicken's coming. So ultimately, I get off the train in Brownsville, an area past East New York that I don't know anybody. And this neighborhood's got all burnt out buildings. I get off the train. I don't know why I'm walking around aimlessly looking for drugs.
And the whole time you're debating.
Oh.
Yes, no. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
no.
like the, what are they, yin and yang in
The
your
yin and
head,
yang.
right? Yeah.
The yin and the yang.
So you get off the train.
I get off the train, and the chanting starts going in my head. And listen, I'm not a guy that believes I'm a transactional scorekeeping guy. I'm a guy that when I'm on the streets, you put a package of dope in my hand. I'm a guy that has to visualize everything. I don't believe what I can't see. But this chanting's going on, and a pushing feeling. Get to the back of this building. I get back there, and there's a 50-gallon drum being used as a source of heat and light. And this guy's shooting up. And this voice tells me to tell them that I want to join them. Tommy, it's telling them in my mind that I'm going to go join these guys. At that point, I'm scared. I got no control of myself. I'm on automatic pilot. There is no putting the brakes on. It's like my feet are walking for themselves. As I'm getting closer to these guys, I break down and start chanting, God help me, God help me, God help me, Jesus Christ, God help me. And I'm getting louder and louder and louder. Now I'm screaming it. They turn around and look at me with fear. They didn't know what was going on. I look like a maniac.
Yeah, they probably think something nuts here, right?
But thank God I only have to do this one time. And anybody that's suffering from addiction, you only have to do this one time. If you want more punishment, that's up to you. But I only had to do this one time. I turn around, and now I'm running. And these flip-flops don't hold up with this. These flip-flops don't hold up.
Not made
Let
for
me
this.
tell you, they're not made for this. So I run, and I run, and I run. I wind up getting to a fire department in East New York, probably. That's how far I ran. I ran for miles, it felt like.
Back to your safe zone.
Back to my safe zone.
New York.
The door is opening, and there's a firefighter had just washed or cleaned a truck, and I came bursting in, and I spooked this guy.
Now, to paint this picture, what are you wearing other than sandals when you walk in?
Pajamas.
Pajamas and sandals. You
Yeah.
walk in.
Well, the sandals are gone. I blew them off my feet by this point.
Okay.
I'm barefoot.
So now you're barefoot walking in with pajamas on.
Yeah. So now I'm barefoot.
That's bad.
So what happens is the fireman was startled, and I said, I had a bad situation. He says, do people need help? Is there something going on? And I said, no, I'm the problem.
Yeah.
He looked at me.
He's like, what?
I said, please, sir, I need water. Can I wash my face? Can I wash my face? And I washed my face. And the kindness this fireman showed me, I start to cry. I look at myself in the mirror. I can't believe what I did to myself. I don't know how I got here. How do you get here?
Just happened.
It's like walking out of an elevator with no floor. How do you get to this part of your life?
Yeah.
And you're in your early 20s, and you got this life ahead of you, but you got this addiction that owns you. And nobody can stop you from using it. And you can only be the one to admit you got a problem, and you need a higher power, some process to get out of this mindset. And I wash up. He's kind to me. He goes, look, man, I don't know what's going on with you, but the FDNY is hiring. I said, I couldn't be a help to the department. I said, I can't save my own life, man. He says, you okay? I said, no. I said, but I got to get to the Jamaica train station. I got to get some footing. I need a T-shirt. I got to get together. I got to get this together. I said, I could be saved if I can get to the Jamaica train station, because I'm going to call my father, and I'm going to ask the guy that I could never get along with to please take me to this monastery, because my life needs to be saved at this point. And I wind up at the Jamaica train station at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm there. And I panhandle for $2 because I'm honest now. I am in recovery mode. I'm going to get through this now.
So at this point, you're done.
I'm done, man. I'm done. I have my ass handed to me on a silver platter. I'm done. So I wait till 6 o'clock in the morning. I call my father. I call a guy that was always business. See, some guys talk. I'm a talker. He got through his life by talking less words. He had a yes or a no. He didn't talk much. I said, Dad, I need help. He says, what are you doing? I said, I'm in Jamaica train station. What are you doing there? I said, look, don't worry about that. I said, I'm at the end of my rope. I said, I got to get up to Garrison, New York. There's a monastery, Graymore. He goes, yeah, I know it. It's been around for years. It's for guys that are dead end. They're done. I said, great. I want to go there. Can you take me now? He goes, no, it's Friday. I got to get to work. I said, will you take me later? He goes, I'm getting off work later tonight. You sit in front of that train station. I'll pick you up. If it's after 6, don't leave because I'm coming. So now, Tommy, I'm going around and the epiphany hits me that everybody has a purpose in this life but me. Commuters are going to work. They're happy. They got cologne on. And I'm wiped out. So at that point, I bought a can of soda. I bought a roll. I had about 55 cents left. And by noon, I got hungry, which was a good sign for me. So I go to the chicken place that's by the Jamaica train station.
Fake Kentucky
It's
Fried.
not a Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's a no-name
It's a fake.
Kentucky. It's a no-name brand of chicken.
But they got chicken.
They got chicken. So I order their meal: chicken breast, leg, soda, mashed potatoes.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And when was the last time you had a meal like that?
Except for the roll that I had.
Yeah.
Tommy, I didn't eat for. Tommy, I was drinking salad dressing. I got no money.
Because all your money went to the drugs, right?
Yeah, and the house got emptied and the girlfriend left and I was down. I was done. So now, these guys are not as nice as the firemen or the cops. I mean, this is a different crew here.
I would assume so.
Yeah. So they put the meal right on the counter, rang it up. I put the 55 cents down. He said, this ain't a joke. I said, that's all the money I got. He came from around the counter and grabbed me by the collar of my shirt, T-shirt I had at this time. And it was on, Tommy. A light bulb went on. And I said, no, this ain't going to happen, pal. I remember what Santiago did to me, and I knew that this was going to be on. I took this guy, and I dragged him behind the counter, and I only had one vision. His head was going in that hot grease. I was going to dunk him. He put his hands on me first.
Fried brains.
I was going, and let me tell you something, Tommy, I was no weakling. But at the same time, the guy that cooks the meals that was on the counter, he got one of those, back in the 80s, things were stronger. He got one of those mops. That mop handle was a little thicker than they are today.
Yeah, they're not plastic. They were metal then,
Not
right?
No, it was thicker wood, and he was welting me in the back with this thing. So I'm trying to get him in the...
You didn't feel it, though.
I felt it, but I didn't. But, so we got two guys I'm working against, and then all of a sudden, the cops show up. The NYPD shows up.
Again.
It must have been a chicken special.
I must have no. They didn't come.
They had a special.
No, they didn't come in for the chicken, Tommy. They didn't.
No, they came in because you're taking on two guys.
Someone
and one
said
of them,
Somebody called something. So now they come in, Tommy. So now they pull me aside. There's a bunch of officers, and they got me. And the sergeant leads the charge here. he says to him, the guy starts complaining, this guy assaulted me. He theft the services. And the sergeant immediately says, you been drinking? Yeah. Your testimony's worthless. You, the other guy, come here. What happened over here? Well, he didn't pay. Did he take the food? Did he threaten you? No, he didn't pay. We made the food and he wouldn't pay. That's not theft of services. I could lock you guys up for what you did. But the sergeant grabbed it. They took me outside. Now this sergeant says to me, now what's your story? How does this happen? I said, look, I'm at the end of my rope. I said, I got my father coming from Long Island. I'm going to go to a monastery. I've been on drugs, but I'm not on drugs now. I had an epiphany. I got a spiritual awakening. He says, there's a lot here, man. He says, look, I'm going to get you lunch.
The cop did?
Yeah, he said, you got me lunch. He says, I want to tell you right now, your father's coming. You're going to sit where he told you to sit. And you're not going to go in here or you're not going to bother nobody. Because you got the right chip on your shoulder that something else will happen. So that's what happened, Tommy. So I did what he told me to do. My father eventually came. Two guys that could never get along. My father listened to Frank Sinatra and Pavarotti. I get into his vehicle, into his Cadillac, and he's got Aaron Neville belting out tunes. And when you're kicking drugs and you're in a lot of pain, when you listen to Aaron Neville, man, singing from the heart, it's like a symphony to the soul. And that guy's music calmed me down. And we rode, and it was a rainy night. And I'm going to this monastery, and I'm scared, Tommy. Because let me tell you, when you don't have any drugs in your system, but you're addicted, you got no courage, okay? When them drugs are gone, you got no courage. And I was starting to, I wasn't dragging anybody as time moved on around any counter.
Yeah.
So we talked.
Yeah, as the seconds go by, you get hit with the spits on you. You're about to fall over.
I'm about to throw. So the trip is uneventful, except we talk about my dog, and he says, "Look, I don't know what that dog's made of, man, but he's surviving. He's going to live a good life." He said, "Son, you really want to do this?" I said, "I gotta." So I get up to this monastery, and they deloused me because back then they you can't have any lice or anything, and they put me into like a medium security correctional facility. They got the bunk beds, and it's not an arrestable, it's not a jail, but it's treated like that. Mm-hmm. So I get clean and sober, and I'm never going to touch drugs again. I'm never going to have a problem. And here's the part I like about this story. I'm not even going to get a parking ticket going forward.
Now, how when you get a parking ticket going forward?
No, I'm saying I don't have any more police interaction.
Oh, you don't have any more
for the rest of your life.
Yeah, to this point, yeah.
Yeah.
So
maybe after the podcast, there might be somebody that comes out with a civil suit.
Yeah.
I remember you hit me, this or that. But up to this point,
Yeah.
Up to the podcast, it's been good.
So
Now
you meet a girl, you go to Nebraska.
Right. So now you get there and you meet a girl, right? And then she helps you get into the correctionals department.
Right. What happened was, I do the monastery, I go to rehab, I get well, I get a job, and I meet this girl. And she's a civilian, a regular girl. I mean, she's a school teacher in the community. But, she's a smart girl. I mean, she's got 2 master's degrees. I mean, she's, able to read that there's something wrong. She goes, look, I don't know about your story, but I like you. But I know you got a story. And I said to her at the time in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I really shouldn't be with a girl. And this girl's normal. She takes me back to her apartment, Tommy. And the first thing I do is I open up the refrigerator to make sure there's food in there. And this girl don't eat much. She's got a yogurt and a couple bottles of water and a couple apples. Mm. So I didn't feel too comfortable with that.
Well, might, you're hungry.
Yeah, I'm a hungry guy.
Yeah, we eat.
So now I'm dating this girl. And, there's some weird mannerisms I got from the street that she picks up on. She said, why when you take a shower, you keep on peeking out of the curtains?
Oh shit!
Yeah. So we
do you wash your underwear and hang them?
No, I don't do that. So I don't do that. So I don't know how relative it is to the story, but addiction makes you a caveman. For me, I didn't get refined. I was always paranoid that the door's going to get knocked down. There's going to be the bad guys. Might not be the good guys. Something might happen. So I'm dating her, and it gets pretty serious. After about a week.
You're in love.
I'm in love. Here's what I would say. Yeah. It was date 1, you're infatuated. Date 3, you're calling the U-Haul company. See if they got. Yeah. So it's moving, progressing.
Yeah,
So
I can relate.
So after a week, I go to her apartment with her. I picked her up after school, and there's a dozen roses waiting for her, and she thinks they're from me, and they're not. And I'm quiet about it. I'm gonna wring whoever neck that was that sent these roses. So she realized when I didn't smile, there's a problem. So that was it. Nebraska comes because it's the only option at this point. So it might have been.
You didn't jump out the car?
Yeah, when it's coming right now. So about a week later, we're going down.
Mike is dying for you to tell about the car.
He loves the story. I still feel this story.
I would think so.
So we're on Merrick Road out there in Suffolk County somewhere, and I see a look on her face just get white and fearful. I go, what happened? She goes, I just saw my ex-boyfriend. I said, that mother jumper that sent the roses? She goes, yes. I go and open up the Blazer door. It was one of those Blazers. There was S10 Blazers back then. And I start to jump out the door at about 35. She gets one shot at the brake. One shot, Tommy. And I still jump out. Back then, there was no seatbelts. You didn't have to take a seatbelt off. You didn't have to do nothing. You're
So it was easy to jump out the car.
Back then, it was easy.
Yeah,
you didn't have no.
Things change.
It's family. It's family.
So what I didn't know is when you jump out of a car, you don't.
Because his mother's done it. I mean, it just runs in the family.
It runs in the family. We talked about that earlier.
Genetically.
It's genetic. It's in the DNA.
The jumpers.
It's a jumper. We're jumping. So I jump out of the car.
Yeah.
So when I jump out of the car, I knew I made a mistake. Because when I hit that pavement, I was going around like a rag doll.
And she was going, what, 35?
35. She got one shot at the brake. So maybe she got it down to 26. I don't know. But she got, the story later on was got one shot at the brakes. Now, here was the problem. As I'm rolling around, I see cars swerving around. So finally, I come to a stop.
Almost like the dog on Merrick, because it's the same freaking road almost.
Yeah. But the wind got knocked out of me, Tommy, so I couldn't get up.
Ooh, wow.
The wind.
You jump out of a car at 35 miles an hour, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, so when I was scraped, I had road rash all over, I was bleeding.
Yeah.
So the people that were driving the car stopped, and they were call him an ambulance. And I got up off the pavement. I said, don't worry about no ambulance. And I went into that travel agency that he was ordering tickets with his new girlfriend. And I said to him, you send them flowers? Did you do that? He was a tough guy like I was with the sergeant for a minute. I grabbed him, no different than a cop. I think he might have thought I was a cop. I grabbed him and pulled him out of that travel agency, and it got pretty serious on the street. But he was not a fighter. And one thing about me is that, look, I've been given a lot of breaks. The guy was never going to send another rose again. He was done.
Yeah, you sent your message, and that was enough.
Yes, it was done. So from there, she said to me, look, I kind of like you, but you're nuts. She goes, look, my family's from Nebraska. I think the best thing for us, if we're going to go forward, is to move to Nebraska. I said, I think you're right. So I took a trip out there, Tommy, and Nebraska is not like people would think it is. It's right in the middle of the country, straight shot between New York and California, right in the middle with I-80. And it's pretty developed. And I go out there, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I wind up thinking things are going to be different when I get out there. I'm thinking like farming. I'm thinking taking Series 6, Series 7 tests. I'm thinking about a lot of different variables.
Oh, you're a stockbroker.
I'm a stockbroker. I mean, I hear things. I'm a wealth of useless information. And I think, I might do this, I might do that. So her father eventually gets a hold of me. He says, look, I know a little bit about you, enough to be concerned. He said, look, you had a stint that you wanted to be a cop. I think you should take the Department of Corrections test out here. And if you're going to make a serious relationship with my daughter, you need to be employed. And so that I took the test.
Real man.
Yeah, real man. It was good. He was a saint as far as a giving person. And he didn't have to say a lot to reel me in. I mean, he didn't have to say a lot. I knew what he meant.
Well, you really didn't have a tight relationship with your father.
No.
And now you have a guy who's acting fatherly.
And just real quick, how bad does that burn? When you jumped out of the car, because I had a bunch of motorcycles, and I fell off of them, and that brush burn from when you fall off a motorcycle, whew.
Tommy, it's a very painful deal, and I don't think I ever fully recovered from the aches and pains. When I get up in the morning, it takes me about an hour to feel okay.
Yeah, it hurts.
You know the routine. So go ahead.
Yeah, so
right.
Go to the next picture and show him as a Department of Correction officer. Go to the right. There you go. So now, what year is this?
This is probably 1993 or 94.
You look like a boxer.
Tommy, that's the guy that was on the streets in East New York. There's nothing different from me, and that's the mug
Club
I had.
Malibu. The Club
Malibu. That's the guy I was. That's the guy I became. The next picture is the guy I became after I got.
Go to the next one, Tom.
Now, the Department of Corrections.
Seasoned, salty.
Yeah. The Department of Corrections was needed for me. It was needed for me to get a routine and an avenue to do something that was legitimate and do something that was worthwhile.
And now they put you down in to work in solitary confinement.
Oh, I get
right?
there. I get there.
And how was that? Because we were talking last night about some of the experiences you had down there, and
Well, you work solitary confinement. Early on, Tommy, I was a little bit of a wild man, and the Department of Corrections knows where to put people. It's just that they kind of have an idea what best suits you. And I wound up in some of the worst jobs. I wound up in jobs where, number one, I could have been fired immediately. I was in a visiting room between the inmate and his family, and that's a way to get rid of a guy quick. Because if you do the wrong thing there, you're done. And you're still on probation for 6 months. I think it's 6 months when you get the job. So I did that. From there, I wound up working in something that's worse than solitary. They have something called a control unit. And this is a concrete bunker for guys that don't do well in segregation in the hole. These are guys that know they already have been sentenced to time in segregation. But now they've even gone further to do something. They might have assaulted a staff member when they were given the meal or something. Now, how bad is this place? I had fellow correctional officers say, when these guys get out of the control unit, they'll be skipping on the yard like they just got paroled. See, what the public don't know is a penitentiary.
True that. I've been there.
You've been there.
Oh, yeah.
You've been there.
is that the turtle suit when they put you in the turtle suit?
Right. That's when you get forced cell extractions. They come for you with that.
They strip you down naked and you're in a turtle suit because you're naked, because they don't want you to kill yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, okay. That when they strip you down and they give you suicide. But I'm talking about the turtle suit as far as corrections doing the forced cell moves and they're doing extractions.
Okay.
But what the public don't know is a penitentiary is basically a community within a community. It's got the 40-foot walls up. It's got a business, which is the plate factory, where you make license plates or state furniture. And they got their own court system. They have a barbershop. They have a gym. They have a community. And if you violate the rules in that community, the correctional officers give you a ticket, and you go in front of the disciplinary committee. If it's bad enough, they give you time in segregation. No big deal. It's like going to the county jail in segregation. So you're not in the yard no more. Well, these are the guys that wound up in the control unit. And we're talking about, here's some of the things the guys in the control unit do. When a person has to face themselves and not have anything to numb themselves, it's painful. Guys would bang their head between the toilet and the wall to knock themselves out. Weichel. Inmate Weichel.
Just trying to kill himself?
Trying to kill himself. Well, to knock himself out to get some relief.
Just to avoid the pain or
Just
get rid of the
avoid.
pain of being in there.
Yeah.
And then, so you do that, and you said you did that about 5 years?
That deal on working the control unit, you do it on tours. I mean,
Rotation.
they can't keep you in there indefinitely. They give you 4 months at a time. But I was doing double shifts. And, Tommy, here's something I want to say. The inmates gave me respect. I know they it was nothing personal with me. I was by the book. I only know how to be by the book. I mean, I'm smart enough. I'm a street guy. If I'm giving you a cigarette today, it's a pack next week, it's a hacksaw the week after. So I just was by the books, but I was respectful. I never got them to pee and poop in a shampoo bottle and shake it up and squirt it on me, which they do to staff. Not all staff, but they do it to some staff.
But it sounds like you were respectful to them.
Yes.
You understood because you're coming from the streets.
Yes.
So you could relate to them
Charlie,
better than the average officer.
He's with them. They are Charlie.
Yeah.
They're Charlie in many ways.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, you're watching these guys. I've been on both sides, and you've had some experience. And to be a law enforcement officer in a situation where you were them, like you know how difficult it was for me to make an arrest.
Right.
It was torturous. I didn't want to arrest people because I knew I was bad.
Right, because you're a criminal, and then you're arresting criminals.
I didn't want to. I was bad enough what I was doing. I didn't want to be duplistic and a hypocrite. So they were looking at you. You were looking at them.
We were looking at each other back and forth. And it didn't help a little bit, Tommy, with the staff. Until I moved up in corrections, they said, I was on the corrections emergency response team, and we go out into the field to do drills. They always said, let's make the New Yorker the inmate.
Yeah, sure.
So I had to endure that from staff. I had the inmates that would look at me and say, man, come on, you got a story, you know. Because I had so much anger. You post that picture, there's so much anger in my eyes that I go to a cell door, and these guys knew that there was something that had happened to me. There was some type of stress and trauma that happened to me. But I got through that.
Now, what made you leave the Department of Corrections and then go into waste recycle management?
Well, Tommy, here's the thing. I started to realize as my consciousness got better and I got clean and sober for years, I started to look at new guys that were coming out of the academy that were squeaky clean looking. They looked like they, you know, were Forrest Gump or whatever. And within a year or two, they look rogue. These guys look like they had a wild eye in their eyes. They had a 1,000-yard stare. And then I'd go get a haircut or something, and the girl would say, you know, Charlie, you're not a bad guy, but you're so intimidating looking. I wanted to get away from that. That wasn't the environment I wanted to finish up in. And, you know, right around the 10-year mark or less right there, I got out of the corrections because I started the trash business, and I built it up with hard work. And I got out of it.
That's what I wanted to ask you. The waste recycle management business was really successful.
It
Now,
was.
you have a lot of competition in that.
Yes.
You know, my bread and butter is marketing. What made your company so successful with all the competition out there that you had? What was it that, other than the time that you put into it? How were you able to make that so successful? Because now you go from a severe addict, pretty much homeless, right? You recover, you go to the Department of Corrections, and then you go to waste.
Not as an
recycle
inmate.
management.
Not as an inmate.
Not as an inmate.
No, I'm not saying as an inmate, but then you go
Yeah.
to waste recycling management.
Yeah.
And, you know, for people watching, what did you do? Because, you know, maybe somebody's recovering and they're trying to get into some. How did you make that so successful?
Okay, here's how you made it successful, and it's important. You have to start with the smallest twig to build a nest for your bird, okay? So I started with just a simple ad that I would haul away a pile of trash for $35. Now, it didn't make sense back then because I was making enough money in corrections that my hourly time and a half would blow that away, but I took the opportunity to do that. I built on that.
Now, what was the average price for the other companies? So you're charging $35.
Yeah.
What are the other companies charging?
What I found out, Tommy, is the other companies didn't offer much service like that. They put a dumpster down, you had to load it yourself.
Right.
So I got in doing that.
So you took all the small stuff.
I took all the small stuff and then was able to build a truck that could take the bigger stuff. And I did it, and I treated it like a baby. You know, you want a baby, if you're a father and you want a son to be a major league ball player, you do everything easy, nutrition, training. I didn't take a nickel from the trash business. I kept on growing it and bought the equipment eventually. And then once you get the equipment, you can open it up. Now, in Nebraska, they had the same families, a couple of families hauling trash since the beginning of time. They didn't have a guy from New York hauling the trash. And I kind of, what worked for me was I was kind of like a nuisance, but they didn't take me serious. And they would get customers that would want extra service, like a bathroom, debris taken out and hauled away. They give it to me, but they didn't know they were feeding me. And they fed me enough that I wound up.
So in other words, you got into it, you took all the jobs that nobody else wanted
Yep.
and undercut them with the price to build up. You worked hard.
Yes.
People liked you. You're in New York. You're a different person. So
Yes.
that's kind of attractive. And even if it's not attractive, it's still kind of attractive because, like, New York is known for waste management.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
Yes, and they got a kick out of it. They,
Yeah.
they laughed and they said, you're probably not too many handshakes from a mafia guy.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
Diane and your dad,
Yeah,
obviously.
And Tommy, we have to have a little levity here. So
Yeah.
my father comes out. My father didn't like me working in corrections, and I obviously he
I
didn't
would,
like
I
that.
would think he wouldn't like that
But-
very much.
So my father finally comes out to Nebraska, and we go to get me a pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
And my father says, this place is different. He goes, it's not like the South. It's pretty good. It's okay. So we go to get me a pickup truck. So the salesman says to my father and me, he says, look, this truck only has a V6. When you guys are hauling bodies, you need bigger motors. And my father said, did he just say what I thought? Dad, they all watched the movies. I said, they all watched the movies. This is before even Sopranos. I mean, so my father said to him, my father was a good speaker. He didn't speak much, but he said to him, that's an insult. So you're telling me all you think is Italians are mobsters? And the salesman says, no, but you guys seem like you're like them type of guys. He goes, this is worthless here. So, I mean, that was my father's first.
Now, what was your father's position?
My father was a teamster with the trucking union.
Okay.
Plus, he was involved in concrete business. And we know that he was arrested with Imbruglia, who was a lifelong criminal that was a guy with, who knows what family, but he was in the French Connection. He was doing something that wasn't right.
Okay, we'll leave it as position unknown.
Position unknown, yeah.
Right? That's a safe out.
Yeah.
All right, so one day you're at your desk at the waste recycling management company,
Yes.
whatever, and you're reading the newspaper, and you always read the headline. You don't read just the headline. You
read
read
it
the
all.
entire thing from
Start to finish.
start
I
to
read
finish.
everything.
And in that, you see about this dog who becomes Star, who gets shot by an NYPD cop.
Yes.
And now I'm going to tell you what I have, and then you elaborate on the story. So they're in New York, homeless man, homeless dog. They're together.
Stanky?
Lex Stankiewicz.
Stanky.
Like Stankiewicz, okay. And the homeless man, who is the owner of
Star.
soon-to-be Star, is having a seizure.
Yes.
So there's plenty of people in the streets. A woman comes up to help Star or help the man who's having a seizure,
Right.
and Star chases the woman away out of protection.
Right.
Then there's a million people around everywhere taking videos and all that
Yes,
stuff.
Yes.
And then the cops are called. The cops come.
Yes.
The cop goes to try to help the man having a seizure, and Star, again, out of protection, lunges at the cop.
Right. But what the cop does do, Tommy, is that the cop realizes he probably radioed for an ambulance. He just basically wants to keep the crowd away from the dog and get a safe perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing that, he's got a woman that doesn't listen to his commands. The cop is saying, stay back, stay back. The woman doesn't. She wants to be animal trainer. So she gets in the perimeter, Star runs her off. Then, and I found this out from people that know a lot about training dogs. Star was doing a job that no dog, you could put $100,000 into a dog and not get a dog to do that. She ran the woman out of the perimeter. But the problem was, when she ran the woman out of the perimeter, the officer was concerned, so he was chasing the dog from behind, basically, or just stepped into the perimeter. The dog spun around, felt the intrusion, and went straight for the officer. The officer then fired his service weapon, hit the dog in the head, and then you can go ahead with the next part.
And then the other officer comes after shooting the dog in the head and maces
Yeah.
her. Now, how sick do you have to be? You just shot the dog in the head. What possible reason? You got to be the sickest guy on the planet to go mace. You just shot the dog in the head. What's it going to get up?
Tommy, here's why the story, it created worldwide outrage, okay? I mean, there's a lot of dogs, there's a lot of things that happen in America. People all over the world got involved in this with social media and everything. And the scene is, on the screen is, the dog's laying out, the man's there, and after it's all done, you believe the dog is dead because the New York newspaper said she was dead. But here's what happened. I've had a lot of years to really digest this thing. It was a horror show that went on. The cop that maced it, I don't know if, I'm going to play devil's advocate. He might have been scared that Star might have got up again, and then the other officer might have shot it. We don't know why he did that.
Charlie, I don't think that dog's getting up again.
Not now. But when the first shot came in, it was an ugly, ugly scene, and it's something that I don't even like to look at.
I'm not going to play it.
And here's the thing: what I know about this, I get guys that have seen a lot. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see that. This is an ugly.
I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it.
I didn't even watch it.
No, and I think that it's important to know something really bad happened, which it did, and to know that the headlines were simple. The dog died. There's video of the dog bled out, and now I'm at my desk. And Tommy, I'm in the middle of this thing, and I can't believe how I got myself into this. Now I don't know what's going on internally with me. I don't know that I'm connecting this dog to my dog.
That got hit by the car.
Hit by the car, and I'm looking at that homeless guy, and I'm saying to myself, I know that guy. That's me.
That's you.
That's me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the NYPD in the middle of this whole thing. How did my life is being... Now, before Star got shot, I was running a big trash business. I was a chief operations officer. I sold my trash business, then got involved with another group of guys that bought my trash business, and we were going into the neighboring states. We were building this thing to sell it. So I hired a consultant from Omaha to hang with us and to look at what we were doing. And this guy was a low-key guy. And he said to me, before Star got shot. He goes, I have never seen a more scorekeeping transactional guy. You better find something in this life that gives you purpose, that gets you out of bed in the morning, and doesn't pay you a damn cent. You're not going to live a long life. Because I had this addiction, and all I could think about was trash stops, trash stops, trash stops. Built. So dog gets shot, and now I got purpose. But the dog is dead, and then the NYPD spokesperson says the dog is dead. So I call in my staff to watch this video. And these guys are guys that have seen some stuff, and they're like, I can't look at this, Charlie. They were. One guy had his hand on my back. Charlie, I don't know why you're affecting this is so bad. You've worked in prison. Why is this affecting you so bad? I felt like my guts got ripped out, Tommy. And I didn't know it at the time, man. If that dog died, I felt like I was going to die.
But what made you think that it wasn't dead?
Because, Tommy, I never believed in anything in my whole life. I never really believed. Even though Michael, the guy in the train station, said I needed a higher power, I went along with the program. I got a higher power. And it got me out of the drugs enough, but I didn't heal. So, for some reason, I believe the dog lived. And that's not like me. I'm a scorekeeping transactional guy.
So it was an instinct that made you believe that it wasn't dead, that it was still alive. So your instinct inside said the dog's still alive.
But I also am a prudent guy. The Department of Corrections taught me something that we should all live by.
Come a little closer to the mic.
Prudent. Prudent means sensible approach to things, to be able to weigh evidence. So I'm a prudent guy where I start to weigh things out. So I bring other people in. Everybody's unanimous. Charlie, a dog died. She bled out. It's gone. So I said to myself, okay, she's not in pain no more, but I don't believe it. So that afternoon, I looked at who had the contract for New York City Animal. It was at New York City Animal Care and Control. I wound up getting the phone number and calling them up from my office in Nebraska. And I hit the admin. Instead of hitting the pound, I knew that I wasn't going to start with entry-level people. I hit the admin. And I got an administrative assistant on the phone. I said to Renee, her name was, I'll never forget it. I said, Charlie Cifarelli, I don't lie. Tommy, I don't lie. I mean, I just tell the truth. I said, I'm calling you because I'm in the recycling business, trash business, and I want to know if you're going green in New York City. And she was only too happy to talk about that she's going green and that she's really happy about this. I keep her on the phone for a little while, and then I segue over to the dog. And at first, she doesn't know what I'm talking about. She says, we got a lot of dogs. I said, well, this dog was shot by New York City police. And she typed a bunch of stuff into the computer, and she goes, well, what do you want to know, sir? I said, did the dog die? She goes, no, the dog didn't die. The dog's actually at the Fifth Avenue vet right now. But why did they say the dog died? Look, the dog most likely is going to die, sir. The injuries are pretty substantial and this and that, but the public can handle this better. Whatever she said at the time, I took that information, called the Fifth Avenue vet, and I found out the dog was alive, and I felt like I got a new lease on life. I felt like I was reborn again. I mean, I hear people talk about reborn. I felt like I hit the lottery. So I make sure I anchor my position in. I find out who the director is, the New York City Animal Care and Control, Richard Gentles at the time. I send them a LinkedIn connect. I tell him how nice they're doing recycling. He's only too happy to give me his email. I said, look, by the way, I know the dog's alive. I'm going to get everything I can to help this dog.
Nice play.
But unfortunately, the dog lawyered up. The dog had a bunch of lawyers stepped in, so that was that.
Right. So now, Mike, you as a former NYPD, what do you think about this? I mean, shooting the dog, then macing the dog, just as an officer.
Well, most
from the outside.
Yeah, from my experience, most police officers generally don't go overboard.
Would you consider that overboard?
Well, I mean, looking at the scene, it looks horrific. So any natural first instinct is, oh my goodness, why would they do that? So I wasn't there, but I did see the video, and I would have maced the dog and maybe shot the dog again if you looked at the whole video.
Oh, you would have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that I want the dog dead. I've come to love Star through Charlie.
Yeah.
But the dog still was a threat. Still, when he was initially shot, believe it or not, which is unbelievable. That's how much fight was still left in Star, but people don't see it unless they see the video.
Yeah.
So that's why.
That's why.
Yeah. I've come to love dogs. By the way, I've been attacked by 6 dogs. So
that's not fun.
No. And Charlie, you have a few experiences yourself.
Yeah, I have a few.
I almost lost my eye.
Yeah.
I was almost eaten alive by what they call guard dog, attack shepherd.
Yeah.
Eaten
almost
alive?
ate me. Almost at 16, almost ate me alive. It's the facts. I almost lost my eye. In fact, if you look in here, you can still see it.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there. And my leg was chewed up, and the dog was eating me. So I have no great love for dogs initially, right? And then, but over the years, I softened and have come to love animals. Again, it was very difficult for me. So when I hear stories about people and their love for animals, I'm initially reticent. Put that word in your vocabulary. I'm initially reticent.
Don't even know what it means.
Yes,
Okay.
but I begun over my years to soften to that, much as I have to people, because it's part of my relationship with animals and people is sort of a similar thing. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now tell me about all the red tape and the hoops and the boolah you had to go
It's a
through.
lot. It's a Tommy.
Because the New York Animal Care Control, they weren't helping.
The witness
you.
protection. Tell us about the
They
witness
put this
protection.
dog on a witness. Here's the thing, Tommy. After you've told all the major networks, the headlines are the dog is dead, and then the spokesperson said the dog's dead, and now you got to reverse it. Now the dog's alive because I'm going out and telling people. I'm smart enough to know how to use, even though I'm not skilled in media. I know that the people in England think we're crazy with our guns. So what do? I start sending emails out, doing things I can to get on a radio show in England to talk about how crazy this is. And
Like actually England?
England, UK, across the pond.
Daily Caller? Or whatever?
Yeah, whatever it was. I call them, they do an interview with me. But I come at this thing like a swath of bees. I'm all over. So one of the things I do is I don't know at the time, because I can't connect to this guy. I don't know what's drawing me to these two, and I'll find that out later. But at this point, there's something in me that is drawing me to a homeless man and their dog, and I have no ability. Now, the woman I'm with, the longest relationship I'm with, never knew I had a dog. She always wanted a dog. I said, no, we can't get a dog. She goes, can we get a little dog? No dogs. And she said, we can't get a dog? No dogs. I don't want a dog.
But you didn't tell her why.
I didn't tell her why, because I had this trauma with my own dog.
Right.
So I'm pulling towards this guy, and I said to myself, you know what? I got to do something for this guy. And I write on like a CNN article or something. I message somebody. I put a comment that I would help this guy give him a new lease in life. And a reporter, Penny Tilton at the time, gets a hold of me, and she does a few articles on me. Back then it was just the Examiner. She does a CNN report. And she said, this man, Charlie Cifarelli, is willing to help this man. And that puts the cameras on me, and I was willing to help him. But ultimately, the man did not want help from me. He thanked me through a homeless coalition. He wanted to go back to Poland. He signed the dog over to the city of New York because they had put a lot of, like my parents did. My parents were authorities over my dog, and I said, no, you got to be clean, you got to have a job, you got to be able to provide medical and good food. He had a list, he couldn't do it. He signs the dog over. The dog becomes property of the New York City Animal Care and Control. So he no longer owns the dog. He doesn't want my help.
Now, let me ask you this real quick. So before that, because Star survives,
Yes.
who sets up the situation where $10,000 was donated for her surgery?
The
And
public.
then she ends up
The public.
blind in the left eye and
Yeah.
deaf in the left ear, right?
Yes.
So the public did it. They
The
just
public comes out, and the city of New York has something called the Star Fund. There's a fund that it's not because of Star, it's just the Star Fund. So they use this money to help Star. Now,
Great.
the Star story is dark. They never reveal who shoots the dog. The dog gets put in a witness protection program, literally. A dog.
How about that? The wise guy's son.
The wise guy's son. What is it, Mike? What-
Wise guy's son is in the witness.
Yeah, the wise guy-
Wise guy's son's dog.
The wise guy who
Yeah,
should
you-
be in the witness protection
Yeah.
program isn't, but he rescues a dog from the witness protection
Witness-
program.
So you people were very, very worldwide were crazy about this dog.
Of course, I use wise guy's son
Yeah.
a little loosely. I
Yeah.
hope you don't.
No, I'm okay with that.
I mean, your dad did bury.
No.
The cement. The cement.
Well,
Come on, this cement. This whatever. Joey went to work, didn't come home that day. It happens.
it was accidents. Who knows?
I don't know.
But look, but the thing was, I pursue this dog, and I don't know why I'm pursuing this dog. I'm pursuing this dog at all cost. I turn my office into an intelligence center for the dog. I order the biggest whiteboard, 4 feet by 14 or 16 feet. I cover the whole board.
So you're building like a stock room to
I'm
find
going-
this dog.
So I tell
Like
my
organized crime. Bill, ever see the organized
Yeah,
crime
but
boards?
they got the
boss
balls
up top
on
and
the
the
balls,
whole
the
family
captains,
tree breaks
yeah.
out and the
Yeah.
investigative team.
So now I tell my staff here, I said, look, I want to know who's with me with this. I want to know who's with me with this dog.
Oh, my.
I want to know anybody's going to volunteer their time to find this dog.
And this is at the waste.
Yeah, waste,
recycling-
yeah.
So you got people that are working.
And we got 6,500 customers, and we got 120 employees.
Worked out
We're
good.
busy people, man. We're busy, and we all got stuff to do. I get a network of people that are bright, that are going to help me, and we put up the whiteboard. And every fact about this dog and where she went, I'm going to find this dog. So the dog quietly has surgery to remove the eye, and then is renamed and sent to a sanctuary in Philadelphia. The public doesn't know this. Her lawyers know this. At this point, Star's got a legal...
Sounds like me. You got a team of lawyers.
He's got a team of lawyers. The dog's got a team of lawyers. The New York City police are giving no comment on this. It was a PR nightmare. You know, years later, the NYPD did a Twitter campaign, tweet your most memorable moment, and people started tweeting the shooting. So how this dog came back from the dead is unbelievable. But the thing is, the Daily Mail said, Nebraska man believes in miracles. Pitbull shot in head makes a miraculous recovery. And at this point, I didn't know I was going to have a life, Tommy. You see, Tommy, I never had a childhood. I never had a childhood. When I was a young kid, man, I was a referee between my mother and father. When I was a young kid, I had to scrape just to eat. I had to get involved in adult situations that I didn't have any business in. I never had a childhood. I never did the things that I wanted to do, man. My father didn't throw a football to me. He didn't throw a baseball to me. And I'm not saying poor me, but that didn't happen. And what's worse is having a father in your life, but not having a father. Having no father, then there's no bad role model. So my father did not help me. And what he did was my dream to become a cop. He dirtied that dream because I'd be in East New York or Brooklyn with him because he did Starrett City with the blocks, and he'd pay off the officers so he could double park his trucks with the concrete. and then he'd justify it to me, and I said, them officers are taking money from you. I could tell. He goes, it's not for them. They got to bring it to the captain of the station. And my father would do everything he can to dissuade me. He only looked at the police as if they were bad, that they didn't do a good job, that they had an easy job, and things happened. And the police were not in good terms with my father and the block company. I think one time he had a bunch of flowers from my mother and a bouquet, a bunch of stuff on the front seat, and the door was left open with a card or something, whatever it was. He knew the cops had done it. So now all this stuff happens. And I never
Totally, but you mentioned it earlier, and I don't know if you recall it. Your father shot a cop, too.
Yeah, listen, my father was arrested in 1956.
But you didn't know this.
I didn't know this. I'll get to know this in 18 when I write this book we're going to talk about. My father never told me this. But my father had jailhouse tattoos, man, and I knew something was wrong. And Tommy, this guy was a fighter, man. He was 175 pounds. I saw him fight guys at parties. I saw him fight guys in the street. Kids, I threw some fireworks one time. He ran up the front of a Corvette, jumped in the T-tops, took the key out of ignition so the kid can't take off, punched him between the eyes, and his head just swelled the size of a pumpkin. So I got this maniac that robbed me of a childhood, that destroyed the pool, that made my life. I became a nervous wreck, man. At 8 years old, I was getting thrown out of my house. And I had to go to a supermarket and act like I was shopping and open up food so nobody knew I was stealing and eat food. By 12 and 13, I was sleeping in the back of parks in the summertime, sleeping in a tunnel because I was street smart enough to know if I was in a tunnel, if somebody went in one end, I go out the other. I would eat the food. The cops would come into my suburban neighborhood in Lakeside School, and they would park 2 deep, 3 deep. They get a call, they throw their food out. I'd go scrap whatever food they had. I had a lousy childhood. And then my childhood turned into my brother being born 8 years after me. He had a lousy childhood. When he turned 16 years old, he emancipated himself. He changed his last name and never came back to our home. That's how, and my father never laid a hand on him. And I saw my brother first time. I'm in Florida today. I'm in Florida since yesterday. I saw my brother in person last time I saw him was 15 years ago.
So you haven't seen him in 15
I
years?
haven't seen him in 15 years.
And you saw him yesterday?
I see him yesterday.
That's great.
And because he came out to Nebraska, because he knew I was doing bad and knew I was doing really good and knew I was doing bad at one point, and he wanted to get involved in the trash business. And I just wasn't a nice guy, Tommy, before Star got shot. I just wasn't a nice guy, and I think I hurt his feelings. And he went back to Florida, and I never talked to him again. And son of a gun, Mike Dowd, you know, for all that people don't like about him, he's done a few things for me. And I never thought I'd even know this guy personally, but the good cop.
This guy here?
Yeah.
No
this
way.
Guy, yeah. This guy here. This guy here.
You're making me get water.
This guy here. This guy here, and I don't want to lose my track.
I'm a human being, not a human doing.
I wound up. I know we're throwing a lot of stuff here. Hopefully, you don't lose any of the listeners. But,
No.
But in 18, I watched a documentary, 7-5, and it moved me.
And here you are sitting next to
And
him.
I said to myself, this guy survived. Because when I was in corrections, Tommy, a little bit of they'd say to me, hey, Cifarelli, this guy Dowd is out there. We're watching him on a bus going to Atlantic City. You talk like him. You telling me you don't know that guy? They should only know I was in East New York in the same precinct, but I knew of him. He was infamous. But in 18, I tell the good cop, this guy Dowd, I know this story personally. I know of this guy. He goes, would you like to meet him?
Is this the guy that found you in your slippers?
Yeah. I said, meet him. I said, is that possible? I mean, how? He said, yeah, I think it would be good for you and him. So I met Mike Dowd.
And how does that all happen? Take me through all that.
Well, the thing was, this guy, Ted, he took us out to eat, both of us. And I meet this guy, and I sit in the back seat. And I'm saying, how can this happen?
Are you a cop at this time?
No, it was 18.
No, it was last year.
It was
I
3 years
thought
ago.
you were saying like 18.
At 18, no,
okay.
2018.
Gotcha.
2018. So
Gotcha.
we go for a meal. So I don't think that Mike Dowd could help me. Matter of fact, I haven't had a drug in my body in 30 years. I haven't drank in 24 years. I always carry my medallion of sobriety in my pocket because it's the most important thing that I have. Without that, I have nothing.
Well, congratulations on that,
Thank
by
you.
the way.
So I see that Mike is clean and sober. And I see that he's impacting people. I take my medallion out and I said, this will help you get to the next one. And I give it to him. And I think that I'm going to help this guy. My friend helped him, I'm going to help him. So as time would go on and I'm zigzagging around here, it's important to hear this. Star died in February of 2019 after many years with her, recovery with her, taking her to Alzheimer's walks, cancer walks. She was very big in the community. People that were injured gravitated towards her. So this dog that I fought for, that was in a witness protection program, becomes a superhero. And this is beyond anything that I could ever imagine that's going to save my life. Tommy, I was not a great guy. Was I breaking the law? No, I never broke the law again. Could the cops say no? Did I go out late at night? No. Did I drink? No. But I wasn't a nice guy. There wasn't that next level, that spiritual side to me.
Until you got Star.
Until I got Star. And then we did some wonderful things. I went to classrooms. See, Tommy.
But Charlie, you got to tell me how you got Star.
Okay, so I got Star by staying on top of this dog and following the story and getting the whiteboard.
Yeah, so you got the whiteboard. You're trying to get everybody you can to help you.
Yes.
Now go back to that and take me from there. How you got, because I know all the hell you went through to get this dog.
So the hell is this, Tommy? You know, I contact her legal defense fund. They don't really want. They just charm me. Charlie, Star will be adopted out one day. I said, is she okay? And time goes on, and I'm getting a public. I mean, I get more followers on our Facebook than the Omaha World Herald, and I'm getting people, and I become the spokesperson for this dog. The East Village Times keeps quoting me. People that want to know about this dog reach out to me, and it's my first experience with the media. So, eventually, I tell the legal defense fund, I need proof that this dog's alive. Let's stop the nonsense. No picture, the dog is dead. They didn't want to do that. So they give me a picture of the dog.
Now, when you see this picture, what do you see in the picture? You see cars.
Yes.
You see something with the semi truck,
yes.
license plate. Explain to me that whole thing.
Okay, so what I do initially was I take a look at the picture. And what I do is I write down everything I see because I'm going to ask a reporter if it's the same thing she sees. I take notice and zoom in, and I notice none of the cars have front license plates.
And what does that mean?
That means I go to a list of which states don't have front license plates.
Okay.
But Pennsylvania's big on my list because it's close to New York. And I zoom into the fact that I can see that they weren't white, they weren't removed. There's no front plates because there's like vanity plates or like New York Yankees, different things on the front cars. So now I got Pennsylvania. Now they're smarter than they think they're smarter than with this because they take a semi that's in the background and they white out the door of the semi so I can't see the semi's name, but the U.S. DOT number's there.
Oh, jeez.
And as a guy,
And what's a U.S. DOT number?
the U.S. DOT number is assigned to every truck in America, and it tells specific information about that truck, who the carrier is, who's the owner of that truck, where is it based out of, how many miles a year do they drive, what is their driving
Bingo,
record.
right?
It's everything.
Yeah.
So now I trace this dog to Philadelphia. So now I know that this dog is in Philadelphia, and I know the address of where this semi's at, but I'm perplexed, and I'm going to be not learn where the dog is for months. So it's an old Army industrial complex. I take the little yellow guy from Google back then in 12, and I move him to where the dog is.
Yeah.
And I see the same scenery, but no dog. And I said, there's no rescue here. There's no animal shelter here. So I didn't know that they just moved in there and that Google didn't update their address. So now I at least have a footprint of where to call. So I start calling all these places for the dog. Do you have a one-eyed pit bull? And it's always no. It's always no. It's always no. And I spend more time on hold than I do on the phone, calling people. But I never get distracted. But at the same time, months are going by, and my significant other says, look, you've lost yourself in this.
And at this point, how many months is it?
Oh, I'm into this thing 3 months now. She got shot in August.
Hardcore.
I mean, look, I'm up all night, going to work, wild-eyed, and I'm trying to find this dog. And she says to me, look, it's going to kill you to find this dog. I said, I'm going to find this dog no matter what it takes. And I don't realize, Tommy, I'm gutted. I feel so much pain in my gut. This dog to me is like a family member. I never met the dog. Now, Tommy, there are a lot of sad situations that happen every day. I have a level of compassion for every situation, a level of compassion. I know bad things happen in the world. But I'm also a statistical guy. I kind of look at, they'll tell me 10,000 dogs a day die in U.S. shelters. I want to know what the statistic, how many dogs a day get rescued. But this dog, I have no emotional muscle for this dog. I'm completely wiped out, and all I want to do is help this poor dog.
Well, you were an addict, so you got addicted to
dog.
the waste business.
Yeah.
You go, like we said earlier in the beginning, you're an extremist. So now the only thing you care about at this time
Is finding this dog.
in general,
Yeah.
is finding this dog. So this is your new addiction, is finding this dog. So how do you eventually find the dog where you get the chance to go meet the dog?
It happens. So what finally happens is this, Tommy. I finally hit the mother lode. I call the shelter, the sanctuary. I said, hi, do you have a one-eyed pit bull that's brown? Yes, we do. Is her name Star? No, it's Shiloh. Oh. Is there a left eye that's missing? Sir, I can't give that information. A supervisor gets on. I know I got the dog. I said, his supervisor. I said, I'm coming out to see this dog. She says, no, you can't. We have a director here. I said, have the director call me. So the director calls me of the shelter. About a half an hour later, I see a 215 number light up. I know I'm on it. Because if I'm some kook, they're not calling me back.
Right.
So 215 number comes up. I asked the guy, David. He's the director. Me and this guy are oil and vinegar in the beginning. He's a powerful guy in Philly. Businessman. Good guy. Tough, with a good heart. He says to me, can I help you? I said, yeah, you can help me. I said, are you a liar? He says, no, I take offense to that. I said, well, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have Star the New York Pit Bull? He goes, I can't confirm or deny that. I said, you got the dog. I said, I'm coming to see the dog. He goes, you cannot. The dog is owned by the city of New York. I said, I'm coming to see. He goes, don't do that. If you care for this dog, don't do that. They'll move her. He says, look, I know who you are. I know you've been following this dog. We all know who you are. He says, I want to see if I get permission for you to see the dog.
And that's where the Mayor Alliance came in?
Yeah, that's where the Mayor's Alliance came in. So I've eventually, after a couple of days, they give me permission to see the dog. But they reel me in, Tommy. They reel me in. David is a guy that can get through to me. He's a business guy. He says to me, look, I'm going to be real upfront with you. This dog is not going to get any better treatment than she's getting with us. So that's number one. Number two, this dog would have been euthanized if it wasn't for us. This dog was in such bad condition, had MRSA, had all kinds of issues. I went out of my way to keep this dog alive. It would have been humane to euthanize her. He goes, so I'm going to be really upfront with you. You're going to come to visit her. You're not going to have no cell phone. You're not going to take no pictures. You're not going to tell the public. You're going to follow our rules. So I said, okay, like a mouse. Okay. And I told Jen I found the dog. I'm going to visit the dog. Now, I don't fly, Tommy. I don't fly. I got
another one that doesn't fly.
Tommy, listen.
What is
all it takes me a band leader that
killers.
That
don't fly.
Yeah, I don't fly, Tommy. Tommy, I don't like to be restrained. I don't like
correction officer. You don't fly.
Yeah. You're working in death row in the pen.
Hand the needle to the guy. Put him in.
No needle, electric chair.
Electric.
Yeah. So Tommy, I don't fly. So I fly for the dog, Tommy. I fly for the dog because they give me a date I could see the dog.
Right.
So now, Tommy, I'm not in corrections no more. The waste management business that I'm a chief operations officer knows I went cuckoo. But they don't care because on the same thing, I'm a New York guy. I can knock out 10 trash bids and get 10 trash bids, or I can squell fights between drivers, or whatever they need, I can squash it and make it work. I'm a magic man. I'm a rainmaker.
You're a New Yorker.
I'm a New Yorker. So I get on a plane. I go to see the dog. Now, here's the problem. The guy I knew from Department of Corrections now has moved up. He's a TSA agent, officer. And he says to me, how you doing, Cifarelli? They ask questions. We're question-asking guys. He says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to go visit a dog out in Philadelphia. I could tell him that's a lot. He says, can you tell me anything more? He says, that seems odd. I said, can't tell you any more. That's all I can tell you. I said, but eventually this will make the news and you'll be able to read about it. And so I go visit the dog and I get picked up at the airport and I'm given the rules and regulations. And here's how this is going to go. We're going to take photos of you with the dog. We're going to do a press release. This story is going to be a happy story. So now they put out this story, which nobody lied. Nebraska man that started a Facebook page meets his number one fan. And they're really nice photos. They have Star in a 20 by 20 room. They play classical music. It keeps the dogs calm. Only the director can open it. He tells me, look, my staff doesn't know the real name of this dog. We're not doing it. We don't want anybody knowing this is a famous dog. We want this story to just go away. So here's the deal. She's got a new name. You're not going to tell the staff what it. You're not taking no photos. You're going to get back on a plane after visiting her for a few hours. For over 2 days, they let me visit her. And that's the end of this story. I said, okay. That's what I got to do. So I visit the dog. I meet the dog. They pick me up at the airport. And I go down this long corridor in this place that could be a medium security prison. And I finally realized why the place isn't on Google Maps, because they just moved in there. And there's a door that says, director only, to open this door. And I've been talking about this dog on the news, radio for 3 months. I watched a video. I died 1,000 deaths. I lost my sleep over this dog. I'm going to meet the greatest soul that I ever am going to meet in my lifetime. I'm going to meet this dog. And I still don't realize why I'm being drawn to this dog, because this is my redemption. I'm going to get my childhood. I'm going to get to be a human being, not a human doing. I am not going to think about transactional scorekeeping. I am not going to make sure that I go through a buffet and I pack my plate up big enough. I am not going to wonder if I'm getting enough interest on my money in the bank. I'm going to be a human being when I meet this dog. So they open up this door, and I got an entourage of people behind me. I don't know how they didn't know this dog was famous. And then there's another set of gates, and then there's this dog. So I see this dog that I talked about, and I go, is this the dog? The dog looks really small. The dog's not even up to my knee. I said, no, she got a little more weight on her over there. We fed her there a bit. So I meet the dog, Tommy. I meet the dog. And I get down and I give her a hug for the whole world. People would message me, man, if you ever meet this dog, give her a hug. I hugged her for the whole world. She didn't want the hug. She was like, who are you, dude? So I hug this dog, and I see these horrific injuries to her. She's got the eye missing, the socket's out, stitched up. She looks a little scary on that left side. She looks a little scary. And I mentioned to the director, I said, I'd like to be her lawful owner one day. He goes, look, buddy, you created a lot of noise. I don't think this is going to work out for you. And he redirects me, Tommy. He redirects me. So I visit the dog over 2 days. I said goodbye to her. I don't think I'm ever going to see her again. And I feel like my mission is done. I see this thing full circle, and I'm okay with this. And I'm okay in a lot of levels. Because, listen, I'm a New York guy, know a lot of cops, worked in corrections. I had everybody coming down on me. Charlie, you could always second guess a use of force. Charlie, you got to come clean with this. You got to say that sometimes we make mistakes, something happens. Instead of doing much, I just stay neutral at that point. I don't say anything negative. I just move on. So I get home, and I see Jen. And she goes, how'd it go? I said, thank you very much for getting me on the plane. I can rest easy now. She goes, oh, you can? I said, yeah. I said, I want to get back with my life now. I got a trash business waiting for me to work on, and I got a lot of work. She goes, get back to your life. She goes, you're going to get that dog, mister. I said, Jen, I don't want the dog. She says, you're going to get that dog. Because if you don't get that dog, you're never going to have any peace. Because you're never going to know what happened to that dog. And you know she's a pit bull. You know she's got a story. You're just taking a little rest right now. You got to get that dog. I said, Jen, I'm the last guy they want to give the dog to. I could tell this guy, me and Wolf, don't really get along.
But you're an extremist.
I'm an extremist. And I don't realize that this guy will be a lightning rod for me at some point. And at some point, I'll call him up like a baby crying that Star just died in my arms. Years and years later, this guy that I couldn't gel with at first because he didn't subscribe to my insanity, because he's a calm guy and he's a thinker on a different level than I am. So I get back and Jen says, you're going to get that dog.
So how do you get the dog?
I get the dog, Tommy. Now, I can't write very well. I can only take a test. And she says, you're going to have to start writing emails, and you're going to have to do things to get this dog. And she goes, this lifestyle of yours of switching out of cars and getting new addresses all the time when I was switching houses. She goes, we're going to have to get a different house that's got a yard. Not because I had gotten to the point where I was going to get downsize. I wanted to not do any snow removal. I didn't want to have a big yard anymore. I've been through all that. I wanted just a normal sized place, a duplex, nice and new, no headaches.
Well, it sounds like she wanted you to get a place where you could go present
Yes.
to the adoption people. Like, look, we have a yard, we have
Yes.
this, we have that. Boom, here's the dog.
So Tommy, you miss your mark when you get some money, man. You really want that childhood home. You want the home that's a miracle on 34th Street where the cane is left. You want a home that resembles something you grew up in. It doesn't resemble you going into one of these big sterile 10,000 square foot mausoleums. I didn't grow up with that. I grew up in a nice home, but it looked like a home with a fireplace in the middle. So I was going to get a home, and I was going to get to live my life again. It was going to be like I was going to get a do-over. And I got this home, and I had to put up a big fence, because I needed an 8-foot fence. Because Jen said to me that she kind of talked to the lawyers with emails, and that if I was going to be a potential adopter, Star was high risk, I'd have to put up an 8-foot fence, and I'd have to go through all this trouble. Now, Tommy, I picked a house in a really nice neighborhood. My neighbor was a very, very well-known judge, a former World War II veteran at the time. My other neighbor was a professor. I had a real estate guy, a big to do in the real estate. And here I am, I move in this neighborhood, and I start putting up this fence. And I'm getting a house ready like a person gets a bassinet ready for a baby to come.
So you build the house up, you make it perfect to
For
go
Star.
get the dog. So now you go to get the dog.
Yes.
What do you present to them that eventually breaks them where they say, okay, Charles, here's the dog?
Okay, so Jen wants to go through things normally, and I'm a street guy. And I said, look, to the mayors, I go, look, here's the deal. You guys got to let me have the dog. It makes perfect sense, because the dog's a liability like you guys are making it out to be. If the dog ever bit somebody, you guys would have a headache. If the dog bit me, I couldn't tell anybody. Do you think in a million years that dog ever bit me behind an 8-foot fence, I'm going to say anything?
No.
So it was a little bit of levity. So it kind of loosened things up.
Right.
So the advocate, the director, worked well with Jen, and they too formulated the plan. And I had a muzzle on me to quiet down. And
Not the dog, your muzzle.
a muzzle
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, I caught that.
Yeah, a muzzle for me. So the thing was, Tommy, I wound up becoming the lawful owner of this dog in April of 2013. There were certain things that were pretty cool, man. I had to have an 8-foot fence, which I did. I had to pick her up in a minivan. I had to sign a bunch of stuff. I couldn't tell anybody I had the dog. All this stuff happened, and I got the dog. And I pick up the dog. After all this, man, I'm going down the highway with the dog. I said, man, we did it, man.
It had to be an unbelievable feeling, right? You know, he's going through all that for all that time in the past, and finally there she is.
So Tommy,
She's with you.
listen, and I've had some
And
experience.
how long was that?
That was from August to April, so it was 8 months since she was shot. And December, I met her in person and got her in April.
Go over to the clip, Dom. It's 3 over. This is a good clip right here. Play that.
This is Star, a 10-year-old dog
She
who
is.
is a walking miracle. Star was shot in the head by police in New York in August of 2012. She became a household name after she survived the accident. But it was the story that followed that changed lives forever.
Headlines were that she was shot and killed.
Charlie adopted her after hearing she was shot and fought every day to help her survive. It wasn't just Charlie's life that was impacted by this smiling face, but every soul she's touched along the way.
I don't have to say anything to anybody, hey, this dog has hate. No, they just know. They just know. People are friendly to dogs, but they just know there's something a little extra special about her.
Living life in Lincoln, Star has brought the support to those who need it most. But now it's Star who needs that love and a glimmer of hope.
The radiologist told me with the surgeon that if Star is to survive, God must intervene because her cancer is inoperable.
Diagnosed with cancer, Star may not have much longer to live. A reality that was hard to come to terms with for Charlie after he'd spent years seeing the impact Star has had and the connection he's built along the way.
So that's a nice little segment there, you know.
So Tommy, I bring the dog home. I bring her home. And we do some really great things, Tommy. Because it wasn't about me. This dog was going to change people's view of pit bulls. This dog was going to go to Alzheimer's and give comfort to people. The dog was going to take me to college and teach journalism class to a bunch of students that had me come in and tell them about the story of Star. She was going to make me a person that would speak in front of the United States Humane Society to talk about animal advocacy. She was going to make me a co-founder of a nonprofit that rescues dogs. She was going to put me on a platform that I could do things that I would have never done if it wasn't for this dog. You see, if it wasn't for this dog, I couldn't even write more than a sentence or two because you'd realize I was a dummy and didn't go to school. That's changed. This dog has allowed me to pontificate the truth because all the media came at me and I had to only tell the truth. I couldn't tell my version of what I wanted to happen or what I just laid it out there. So the dog took me to college. The dog taught me how to write. The dog taught me from being a human doing to a human being. The dog taught me with her injuries, the beautiful creature she was in, side of her. And I saw that people are not judgmental. You know, you get to a certain point in your life, you only want clean, neat things around you. You got nice clothes, your car is spotless. No, packages come in all different shapes and sizes, and sometimes they're not attractive. Star didn't look attractive, but people looked past that, and they saw the gold inside of her, that she had a heart. She found people that were suffering from cancer that didn't even tell people they had a diagnosis and sat next to them. She was next to a police officer that was paralyzed from an accident in Nebraska and wouldn't leave his side in an Alzheimer's walk, sitting next to people with cancer. She had a federal judge go down and ask if he could hug her because he was losing a family member to somebody with Alzheimer's.
Well, you know, they see Star like that and what she's been through, and then somebody else, a human being, it doesn't matter. You know, they're going through something, they can relate.
Yes.
Because other humans, you know, do they really care?
No.
99.9% of the time, they don't care. They'll tell you they care, but they don't care. But when somebody's going through something, there's nothing like a dog. And then you add in an injured dog that survived a miracle survival, right, Charles?
Yes.
I mean,
it's beyond miracle.
beyond miracle. And then you find her. And why do you call her, why did you say that you called her Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Well, because some of the public, because there was anti-pit bull people. So some people say, hey, this is Tyrannosaurus. They said, you're nuts, guy. You're nuts. The dog is a dangerous dog. Look, the dog is a huge deal. Now, Tommy, I have the dog. I rescue her in April. There are people that are smart that are tracking. Nebraskans are not opinionated outwardly. They're quiet. They think. They're thinkers. They keep rocks in their pockets. New Yorkers blurt out everything they need to say. The Nebraska guy keeps a few rocks in his pocket. Finally, on a walk, a guy that knows me, that's a big customer in my trash business, says to me, hey, look, what's the story, Charlie? You got a dog? I said, yeah, I adopted her from back east. Do you know the history of her? No, I have no idea what happened to her. He goes, wait a minute. You adopted a dog, missing an eye. Her skull's like this, and you know nothing about her? No, I don't. He took that information and waited. He saw me a few months later. He said, Charlie, I knew this guy builds on stuff. He's like I am. He's a thinker, and he's real critical on certain things. He says, look, I'm going to ask you this. I'm a YouTube guy. He goes, I saw a brown and white dog get shot by the NYPD. It looks just like your dog. Is this the dog? And I said, yes, Rob, it is the dog. And he hugged me. And that was the first thing, because I was scared. See, they had me scared if I told anybody about this dog living in Nebraska that they might say, we don't want this dog. There might be a petition.
They might take her from you.
Take it from me. So what I did, Tommy, is I knew without the media, I'd be a dead man if it got out that this dog was my dog. So I didn't even tell Jen. I wrote an email to the Gothamist in September of 2014, I believe it was. Yes, September 2014. And I said, I have Star, the New York Pit Bull. And they went nuts, buddy. They said, we want a picture of proof of this. And I sent them a picture. And Yankis, writer for the Gothamist, gets a hold of me. And he says, you're kidding me. You got this dog. I said, I got this dog. And I gave him the story. And he put out a story, Nebraska man adopts dog shot by NYPD. And from that, PIX puts it on the news. And not only do they put it on the news, they make it one of their top stories of 2014.
It was a top 10 story.
Top 5 or 3.
I'm saying like it was in the top 10 stories in 2014. And then all kinds of stuff. 2013, or March 13th, 2017, the Humane Society of the United States invited Star to Nebraska Humane Lobby Day at the Marriott Hotel.
Yes.
That had to be big. Going back, August 15th, the nonprofit organization, the Star Project was formed in Star's honor.
Yes.
I mean, all kinds of stuff.
It's a lot. Tommy, it's a lot of stuff. So,
but it should be noted, and you had people in your family with Alzheimer's, right?
Yes.
And you took Star around to a lot of Alzheimer's
Yep.
patients that
The
had
walks
issues.
and everything. And it was a big deal. So, Tommy, on this deal now, it goes out that I have this dog now. And it goes big. I don't realize how big it's going to go. It's going to go in everything. She's going to be a Dogster magazine. I'm going to be on TV in Nebraska. There's a lot of stuff that's going to go on. But what happens is, the biggest thing that happens in 2018, where I got the awakening at the monastery, the communications director, Cynthia, gets a hold of me and she says to me, you're going to come up and tell your story. You've been sober for 25 years now. You need to tell the board of directors how this worked for you. You need to tell the staff that they're helping the staff and they're helping the people that come, the thousands of men that come through here, and then you're going to talk to all the residents. So I said, okay, that's what I need to do. That's service work. And she says, are you listening? I said, yeah. She says, it's on one condition. You must bring Star with you. So now I bring Star up to the place that I got my spiritual awakening.
That's awesome.
And I talked
as you should have done.
As I should have done.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Franciscan monks, I mean, they're unbelievable. They are the backbone that keeps everything going. I mean, you never hear about these guys on any scandals or anything. They wind up eating with her. We all eat on the same trays, the same food, and we do that.
That's cool.
So, Tommy, with all this that happened, it's 2018 now. My father dies.
Sorry to hear that. Regardless.
Yeah, he dies. His son, that he could never get along with, realized that the hospital made a boo-boo and they gave him a deadly fentanyl dose and they killed him.
Oh.
Yeah, so my dad dies.
Wow.
And I never get to talk to him again.
Now, can't you sue for that?
Yeah, well, that's a
a
whole
whole nother
yeah,
story.
that's a whole
We'll
nother,
stay away
that's
from that.
episode 2. We got another
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
now. I mean, people die. You got to. It's just ugly, man. It's ugly stuff when you got to do that. But so the
Right.
thing is, he dies. I never got to see him when he was in a hospital because my mother didn't think he was that ill, and he went from just having a little bit of heat exhaustion to dying in the hospital.
Well, they killed him.
They killed him with the fentanyl, and then they didn't admit what it is. We're not stupid, Tommy. We asked for what drugs they gave him, and we got a list of what drugs, and then we order a private autopsy, which they didn't want to, and then we compare our notes of what drugs they gave him, and then there's fentanyl. So it is what it is. So I now have to do something. I got to make something good out of something bad. I've got to chronicleize this life and put this together. So I decided to write a book. And in 2018, I tell Jen, I said, me and Star are going downstairs. We're going to stay out of the public for a while at doing events, and we're going to just hang out, and we're going to drink coffee. I'm going to drink coffee and write this manuscript, 102,000 words. Well, I decide to make my manuscript very accurate. So I go to newspapers.com, I put in my name, and I see some stuff that just blew me away. And it explained everything in my past, why my father was a monster. I mean, the guy went away at 24 for the attempted murder of a New York City cop. Came in.
So what you're saying is you grew up not knowing anything.
No, I didn't know the specifics. I didn't know the
So you
specifics.
didn't know why your life was a turmoil.
Didn't know it.
You didn't know why you were being treated the way you were, neglected the way you were, and all the formation of your youth is now in 2018 coming full circle.
Coming full circle.
So all that time, you really didn't know he was a gangster?
I had no, Tommy, all my father would
Really?
do, he told me he was in a newspaper one time. He said he made different page of paper. But my father always blamed somebody else for being a gangster in a concrete company. I'd say to him, them guys don't look, he goes, they're mafia. He goes, them guys are mafia. I goes, okay. And then I realized, I never asked for no favors from these guys. I just didn't want. I grew up with some powerful people in the same town, America. If you Wikipedia America, there's a lot of people. Even Mario Puzo, the guy that was the Godfather, put it together. He was in that town. So my father, one time when I needed a job with the union, I mean, it was a phone call, and I was working that quickly.
Did you know his father or know of his father?
I didn't personally.
No.
So Tommy, I get this information, and I'm startled, and I go start investigating who this guy Joseph Imbriglia is, and he was wanted by the FBI in 1980. He was running a $100 million synthetic heroin ring. The FBI was looking for him, and he was part of the French Connection. And I start, without having any more information, it all made sense. Yeah. So I looked over at Star. I said, so you took me to college. You taught me how to write. I'm writing a book. You explained why my father was so violent and why I didn't have a childhood, and you gave that to me. And you made me more of what I wasn't, and that is a human being.
I think you needed her more than she needed you, man.
Oh, my God, Tommy. And the only thing I ever said to her out of ego, when I got her and we were driving home, I said, Star, there was nobody on this planet that could have got you the way I got you. And she kind of, smiled. So all that stuff happened, Tommy.
Meanwhile, she got you.
She got me.
She got you.
So we write the book, children's book. Jen finally does something wonderful. I'm a star. She said when Star died that there is,
Hold that up to the camera, Charlie.
Yes.
Dowd. Hold it up right there. It's called I'm a Star. Now tell us what's in that, Charlie.
Okay, what this is, the message for children is this. Star looked different. She was injured. She wasn't attractive. But what was in her was incredible. And the message she conveys to people is that no matter what they look like, they still have a message, and they're still good. And nobody is junk. And this dog, with all her deformities, made people happy. And that is the message in this book for children.
Like the land of misfits, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, it's like you know. Well, if you're
snowman, and
you know, maybe you lost an arm as a kid or a leg as a kid, and now you're 18 and you're getting made fun of at school.
Here's an animal that gave more,
you know,
more love.
Or a 10-year-old kid that is growing up, you know, and has some type of dysfunction, you know, can relate to that extremely.
She did a wonderful job with it. She did an incredible job with this. So that went on. So this dog did all this stuff.
Can you pull up tab 2 and tab 3?
Yeah.
So while that's getting pulled up, so you write that book.
Yes.
Okay. And
Jen writes the children's book.
Because what you're speaking.
Yep.
Well, she's writing. Okay, and then keep going.
And then I decide to write.
Right here it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get the paperback on Amazon. I'm a Star.
Yes.
And then there's also another site you have. Go to the next tab.
And there's also on Amazon and both websites. There's also a children's coloring book.
Yeah. Okay. Now right here, explain this, Charlie.
It just basically gives you a day in the Star's life, and just gives you a little outside bit of what the book is about, and it just gives you her journey through New York City. I'm a Star. Follow Star, kind and lovable pup on her adventures throughout New York City. Will Star be able to make new friends despite looking differently than other dogs?
That's cool.
And she really does it.
That's cool.
And you know.
So you can get a coloring book for kids, and you can get So the one's the coloring book, and then one's like the readable.
Yes, one's the and I think that, you know, not that I want to oversell it. I think Jen is putting 50% of all profits to the nonprofit to help other dogs.
That's
it was never done for money. It was done to help other dogs.
And so you can get it on Amazon or imastarbook.com, which
Yes.
will all be in the description. And then you got this book here too.
Yes, that's my book after
Okay, and
3
explain
years.
this one.
Well, after 3 years and 102,000 words and some edits and some edits and some edits, I
You know
have,
that, right, Mike?
I think he's still editing.
Yeah, I have a book that takes you from day one, which we talked about at the office, and takes you back into my life and takes you through it and to the miracle of Star. And for those that are suffering out there again through addiction and they're hopeless, I'm telling you something. Believe in a miracle. Because if you don't believe in one ain't going to happen. I believed in a miracle. I will always be grateful for the Daily Mail. Nebraska man believes in a miracle. I believe Star lived, and she did live, and I wound up getting the life that I always should have had, and I'm very grateful for that.
And now tell me what David Hoffman had told you, the filmmaker.
Yes. He was willing to, and he's been a filmmaker since the 60s. So he got a hold of me and he said, look, I'm tired of reading these headlines and feel-good headlines. He goes, I want to do an interview documentary with you. He says, but I want to ask you why. Why did you rescue this dog? These headlines didn't fool me, buddy. I want to get and ask you why it was so important that this dog would live.
David Hoffman's pretty big.
He's a big deal.
a big deal.
He's a big deal.
So did you have the interview?
Yes, it's the luckiest dog that ever lived came back to life to save man.
That's cool.
The luckiest dog that ever lived came back to life to save man.
And that's really what happened. The dog was lucky as could be. I mean, how many dogs save a gunshot wound point blank to the head? I mean, damn.
I mean, that's insane.
And
you saves his ass.
You know something? And that picture up on the right was taken in August of 2020. And Hoffman wanted a few pictures of us hanging out in the backyard, and Jen took that picture. And that was Star. She's smirking, but she's looking away from me. I'm looking down at her, and she's looking away from me. The picture in the left on the 14th and 2nd, the book title, that was for Puppy Up. That was a cancer walk we took Star on back in the day, probably back in 13 or 14. The picture to the bottom right is Dogster magazine. No, that was the Lincoln Journal Star took that picture, and it wound up in a lot of places. The picture of her sitting as I'm talking to the United States Humane Society.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't fit you in there.
Yeah, that's all right.
I thought the one on top was better.
But let me ask something, Tommy. People hire a PR person.
Yeah.
I mean, this dog did a lot for me.
I wanted a picture with the slippers and
I want that.
And the
I want
pajamas.
that picture.
You know, Tommy, here's the other thing. Look, the dog came full circle.
Yeah.
The dog now is in the police magazine, this edition of the police magazine, the blue magazine.
Isn't that amazing?
So the dog has come full circle. And here's the other thing. I can't tell you how many police officers that have come out that are really dog people. And I think that what people want, and this is an important part of this message, We want 100% from our lawyer. We want 100% from our dentist. We want 100% for our surgeries. And they don't. People are practicing medicine. There's a lot of failures, a lot of success, a lot of failures. But the police are never allowed to make a mistake. And that's not life. Okay? I can't even go to a restaurant and get an order right. But that's life. We're human beings, not human doings, and we're fallible. The police get 600,000. There's 600,000 police approximately. There's endless calls. We're going to hear about a story like Star, but there's a lot of cops that took that small amount of money they get paid every week to do that job that a lot of people don't want to do and help dogs. So I want people to come away from her story to be positive and spiritual and look at the police. If you don't like them currently, they saved my butt. The guy sitting to the right of me, Dowd, Officer Dowd, that gave the NYTD a black eye, I got to tell you something. We all know what he did. What is he doing now? What is he doing moving forward? Okay? So we are America. We are the America of second chances, third chances, fourth chances. And everybody deserves another chance. And I can't hold any anger towards the police of shooting Star. They saved my life, believe it or not.
Now, how do you feel about it being all over YouTube? I understand it helped, publicly wise.
Yes.
But how do you feel about that, the situation that happened being all over YouTube? As gruesome as it was. Now that she's your dog now,
yes.
at this particular time.
Yes.
Now it's all over YouTube.
Yes.
I understand it's getting you publicity and it's getting it out there and whatever. But emotionally, how did you feel that there's 7,000 clips of this?
Well, the thing is, early on, Tommy, I spent a lot of time up all night answering everybody. But here's what I learned. You could answer all these people, or you could just do what you do and subscribe to the people that love her. She turned everybody's opinion. Those people don't even like her. Sometimes they make excuses for me. I've dealt with people that are anti-pit bull that have seen this. They said to me, well, Star was different. We can't win everybody over. And think about this, Tommy. If you have no critics in your life, you're not doing anything. Star is going to have some critics. But at the end of the day, the critics are the minority and the majority are her fans.
No, I understand that, but I meant when you got her and now she's yours.
Oh.
And now on YouTube, there's videos all over the place of her getting shot.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
It used to get me mad.
Yeah.
It used to get me really, really mad, Tommy. And I used to answer this. And I'm pretty good at verbal kung fu. I mean, look, and I used to answer a lot of these people. And answer them with an account they didn't know, because once I got her, I made a Star Dog account. But prior to that, I had a benign looking account, and I just would respond to the messages and say, no, that's not true. See, what they did on YouTube was they took about a 10-minute video and they chopped it down to a small amount and made the dog in slow motion going towards the officer.
There's 100 of them.
Yes.
If you go in there, there's a bunch that are 10 minutes long.
Yes.
They're 10 minutes long, and nothing happens for the first 6.
Yes.
But I guess they put the whole 10 minutes up to get more watch time.
Yeah.
More ads.
Tommy, what we can do, and this is what I got to realize, I cannot focus on the detractors. Here's how we know we came full circle. She's in a police magazine. So any of those people that didn't think this dog had any merit, that were pro-police on this, the police did the right thing. Well, the police, you know what? The police are behind her now too. And when we had the Star Project rescue, our first dog was to a police officer. So Jen and me pull a dog from a shelter. It's going to be euthanized. It's our first dog that we're going to adopt out. And Jen goes over the background of each person to make a good fit. Well, happened to be a Lincoln police officer, Nebraska police officer. And that really says a lot right there. So Star saved that dog. She saved all the dogs in our house. There was a media thing saving a dog in the name of Star. A lot of dogs got saved. And they continually get saved through my advocacy, Jen's advocacy, the children's book, and other things, because we cannot become to the point where we're so judgmental. I mean, we've gotten to a point where we are judging without facts.
So the phone rings one day, about 3 months ago now, maybe 4. And it's Ted. and he knows Ted. And he tells me, this is a little bit heavy. He tells me, I haven't heard from Charlie. He says, have you? Now, Charlie and I communicated off and on intermittently for the last 2-3 years. And with COVID, people have been avoiding each other.
Yes.
And I said, no, I haven't heard from Ted recently. No,
Charlie.
I haven't heard from Charlie recently. Ted and I going back and forth. And Ted, the guy that found him in his slippers on the railroad track, says to me, I'm concerned. So I had sent a message out to Charlie. He answered it back, boilerplate, whatever like that. And I said, okay, well, Ted says to me. Ted again says to me, something's not right. I'm worried. A month goes by, and I get a message from, and he mentioned it, this police magazine people send me a message inviting me to this event. Now, I don't get invited to many police. I don't get invited to many. I don't know why, but I don't get invited to many pro-police events. Well, this happened.
Just watch MSCS Media video 136. Just kidding.
There's a lot of. Anyway, so I get invited to this
Mental health
retreat. Like, what do you think? I'm first of all, I'm not a police officer anymore. Second of all, I'm not crazy. So
Charlie,
so
I bet you anyone he thought it was for him.
So why are they inviting me? So I go, you know what? Charlie's an ex-cop. He's in law enforcement. Maybe he's interested in going. And if he says yes, which I hope he doesn't, then if he says yes, I'll go. If he says no, I'll feel as though I did my part.
Yes.
Right? I just exposed somebody else. And these people want me there to go. I don't want to go. Because I'm like, who am I going to meet? Clark.
David Clark.
David Clark, the sheriff.
Yes.
I find it interesting to say hello to him. But hey, who's got the bigger hat in the room here? I mean, you're the sheriff. Me, I'm the corrupt cop. Well, who's selling more what, right? So anyway, I'm like, But I was sober and have been sober for quite some time. And it would be and the last time I spoke to these people, they were very helpful to me. They put me in the Blue magazine. I had a nice write-up in there. It was middle of the road. They weren't championing my story.
I'm sure they
weren't.
weren't.
They were just.
But at least they were reasonable, right?
Yeah, they were reasonable. So I figured, let's send Charlie this invite. Now, I didn't read the whole thing through, that it was for people that were sort of really out there. I thought it was a vacation for guys that were stressed. No, this was a deep down health retreat. Charlie hits me back in 3 seconds. Yes, I'm going. I mean, wait a minute. Oh, no. Now I got to drive from Long Island to northern New Jersey, and I don't want to use the F word right now. I wanted to fucking kill myself for doing this. So I get there. I look at Charlie. He looks at me. We meet. We get there. He looks. He says, "You going?" I go, "Yeah, I'm going. Of course. If I say I'm doing something, count on it. Of course I'm going. God damn it, I won." And I get there, I look at Charlie, he looks at me, and he goes, "Thank you." I'm like, "For what?"
I look shell-shocked.
He's like this. I go, "For what?" He goes, I said, "Well, you're up on that mountain for a while there," because Charlie had a big mountain play. I said, "It could be a little." He goes, "I haven't been out since COVID." I went,
"Yeah.
Really?" He goes, "I've been in Florida 10 times since COVID." He hasn't left his house since COVID. And the passing of Star. So I don't realize that he's really still, some of his shit's still
percolating.
And fortunately for him, I'm crazy. And fortunately for Charlie, these people come along and they do this great story about himself and Star, and then the podcast.
Yes. So a lot of good things happen. So Mike brings me to this, and I'm hurting so bad because Star died on February 19th at 3:25.
Cancer. What kind of cancer was it?
She had transitional cell carcinoma.
Oh.
And she got diagnosed, but then she was on the couch. That one picture you had of her on the couch, she got off the couch, and we did some wonderful things, Tommy. I got the diagnosis from her back in November. She came out of it, and I did a bucket list. We went to the old 14th and 2nd. She met a whole bunch of New Yorkers. I took her to Freedom Tower. Some NYPD cops hugged her down at the tower. We did some things. And she dies. And she dies unexpectedly because she was doing really good. I had her out the day before, and she died in my arms. She gasped 3 times, and then she died, and Jem was there with me because I was going to give her a bath, Tommy. Tommy, she had been sick. And then I said to her, Jen, I said, I'm going to give Star a bath now. I think we're out of this deal. So I pick her up, and I was going upstairs and put her in the bathtub, sunken bathtub, to give her a good bath. And for some reason, I sat down with her, and she was really comfortable in my arms, and she gasped 3 times, and she died. And it was very awkward. Her mouth was open. So I put her down on the side on a blanket, and I'm trained in CPR, first aid. I know when there's no pulse. She was gone. And I called, I cried for half an hour next to her, and I called up David, the guy that was my champion, to get her. I said, she died. She died. I couldn't even get it. He goes, Charlie, are you okay? I said, she died. She died. He says, well, you're going to have to bring her here. We'll perform the service for her. We'll get ashes to you. We'll cremate her. But I couldn't get off the mountain, Tommy. At the time, I had a TRD Pro. It's supposed to get off. I couldn't get off the mountain. There's too much snow. So I had a dog with me for a week.
Oof.
Okay, so I have a dog. But here's what happened, Tommy. So she looked awkward. So I tell Jen, I said, look, I want you to take a picture of me with my dog. She's gone now. She goes, honey, she looks terrible. I said, no, you're going to do it. Tommy, this air came out of her lungs, and a smile came to her face.
She died in peace, Char.
She died in peace. She came. Tommy, what's gone on since she's died was dogs and nighttime bark. I think her spirits are not. I'm not a guy. I think she is still with me. But here's what happened. I didn't know how to go forward, Tom, and I set into depression, man. And
how long?
I'm 6-7 months. I'm not a suicidal guy, but I'm a smart enough guy to know that you can die by not taking care of yourself, by being sad and this and that. So I didn't answer my phone no more, and I just
sat there,
and I just didn't do anything. And then so Mike calls me, and I go to the mental health retreat, and I listen to police officers talk about their wits' end, and I'm saying, thank God, I can talk to these guys. They're not going to judge me over this dog. And I do a podcast with them. I do a podcast, and I start to talk about the stuff that was bothering me, the unpacking, the suffering. The podcast is actually a suffering podcast, so it all worked out. And here I am in front of you today. The book is on going forward with the children, and I need to go forward.
Now, Mike, when you went to this and you saw him, how bad did he look?
Well, he had a 2-hour drive, which he didn't look bad recovering from that. But it was more what he said, because he actually looked great. Charlie, he keeps himself well.
Well, I'm asking that because for 6 months, you were, breathing.
But I hadn't seen him I saw him, he was 240 pounds.
Yeah.
I saw him one time after at a meeting,
yeah,
which he was about similar to where he is now. And in fact, he had a little more color that time when I saw him. So he looked good. And when I saw him again, he looked good. So and Charlie spends a lot of time taking care of himself that way. So his looks were good, but his words to me were like, "Oh my God, he's lost. He's lost." And I'm saying, I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave in like an hour.
Yes.
I wanted to leave, and I even said something to you. I'm going to leave. And then I realized I need to stay right here, and I need to keep an eye on him. Yeah. I hate to say this because this is the way I felt. I need to stay here for Charlie now, and that really made me feel good.
Well, sometimes when you take care of other people, it keeps you together too, right?
Feel good. Yeah.
Now, why did you?
And I didn't want to be part of the show, right, Charlie? I didn't want to. They wanted me to talk. I said no.
But why did you want to leave?
I'm still uncomfortable around law enforcement and ex-law enforcement because of the nature of what I did.
Oh, okay, I understand.
To the badge. So
yeah.
I wanted people to be able to say, "Hey, Dowd showed up." Nah, they can have an opinion about me or not. But the fact that I showed up and brought Charlie, who's legitimately a retired law enforcement officer.
Right, you don't want to ruin him.
I didn't want to, and I had another cop with me, a Nassau County cop, Mike, who was a successful cop. They came with me, so it felt nice that way. But after about an hour, I wanted to go. But then when I heard some of the words that Charlie was saying to me, I began to stick around longer and longer, really, because I wanted to hear what they were offering people in their shares. And then while that was going on, Dan, the lead guy of the place, came over to me several times and said, I said, Dan, it's not about me, because I'm very gregarious and pretty easy to speak. But I said, this isn't about me. It's just about these people. He said, but they can get something from your story here. So and then Charlie, you heard did you speak too?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I listened to you guys.
Yeah, and but I spoke about 3-4 minutes, which is hard for me to shut down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can do 20 minutes.
Now, were you worried about Charlie at
Yes.
this time, at
Yes,
this particular
yes.
time?
In fact, even more so afterward, Charlie and I began to stay in touch, and the Suffering podcast. I don't know if I encouraged you or they spoke with you about it, but I think I might have encouraged them to have him on because knowing that, see, in total, as we look back at people that come in our life and our path, knowing what Charlie, I knew the surface of or some of the underpinning of Charlie, but I didn't know enough about Charlie. And I've learned so much about Charlie in the last week, even the last 24 hours. The unpacking. He uses this word unpacking. You're so clinical, Charlie.
Yeah.
I mean, you're dumping your shit. I mean, you're unloading your afterbirth, all the nonsense that you lived with and you tried to get rid of.
Held in.
That you've held in. And to me, I really haven't held a lot in my life, I haven't, 'cause I live off the cuff. I live off the end of my sleeve. Generally, except for some of the intimate moments in my life, you're getting everything right off my sleeve. But when I met Charlie and I learned how, I mean, his first podcast, he felt he might go back to jail. I mean, he was like doing a jail interview in his first podcast. When I heard the podcast, I didn't know the breadth and the depth to his story, but I said, that's not real. And I think, I think I've been trying to help him. But me too. Something about me getting him to do what's good for him. Maybe it's part of my mission. I don't know. But I really feel that.
So in other words, you want to be in his movie.
I like that, Tom.
I like him to be in my movie.
Yeah.
And he'd play me. But no, I you know what it is? Some of us, I lived a double life for quite a long time, okay? I was a cop and I was a robber at the same time. For a long time, and then I had to be this big tough guy in prison when I'm a soft touch. I'm a soft heart. I'm the guy who gives that guy the last $3, even though I don't want you at my window. I don't want to see you at my window. Please, please, please. And then I hit the button. I go here. And I hand you the money. So and I know many of us have that in us, and to see the rigidness and the And the more I learned, the more angry I've gotten with Charlie.
Yes.
The more angry. Because, Charlie, you got to get rid of this shit. Because, excuse my language,
Go
PG
ahead.
station. You got to get rid of some. You got to get rid of some of this shit because it eats you up inside. And I don't want. If I know you and I know you're hurting, that's what I try to do. I try to make it okay because it was not easy for me to say what I did my whole life.
You're almost, I've noticed this with you, Mike. You're almost attracted to that, maybe to make up for some of the bad things you did in the past. But it seems to me, as I get to know you, and so he seems to gravitate toward people that might need a little bit of a kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something about me.
No, that's a good thing. But that's a good thing.
I find
that's
that
that's a good thing.
But sometimes I overexpose myself.
Wow, that's just your personality. That's never going to change.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
Now, were you surprised that he showed up?
With the mental health retreat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, this was.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Like he called you, whatever.
What's
but
the
you were
chan-
surprised
yeah.
that he actually
Yeah.
came.
What's the chance of this happening? and Tommy, I didn't know how to go forward. I did not. When the law.
So I'm going to put you in a direction. Jen says, "Why are you going?"
Yeah, my Jen said, "Well, why would you?"
He's the person he lived with 15 years.
She goes to me. Why would you go to a mental health retreat? She goes, "The Department of Corrections never messed with you."
Yeah.
Well, because how are you going to talk about the stuff you saw? I mean, who do you talk? Listen, every department has their own. The police have their own humor. The Department of Corrections, the unsung heroes, they see a lot of stuff. You got to have some sense of humor in their own way. How do you cope with that?
Right.
So. And I've seen some stuff in my life. I mean, remember I had the trash business. I remember a correctional officer going home and shooting himself, and then I'm the guy. My trash company's the guy to take the couch out. I mean, look, I've seen some dark stuff, and this dog has given me light, and that's where I want to hang out. And here's the thing, Tommy. It would have never been long enough. I was living the best life with her. Just going through a drive-through, having people, hey, Star, and all this stuff went on, and we went places, and just to see her so happy, it was really a new lease for her, and definitely the first time.
Well, now it's your job to keep that legacy living on. So I got 3 more questions for you, and then I'll let you get out of here.
Okay.
One, we talked last night and how you got to look at things in a different reality.
Yes.
You tried acid, you did acid, and
Yes.
that took you out of this reality, you had said, and you saw things like the people around you and everything else in a different way, and that also helped you change and become a better person and everything else.
It's crazy. As it
Not
sounds,
that you're
it-
pushing acid or anything
No,
like
no,
that. I'm just
no.
saying.
You got a tab laying around? I've been told I should try it. So I don't know what that means.
No.
So explain to me, like you did when we were talking yesterday, about how that changed the way you look at things.
Well, the thing is, acid's a crazy drug because for some people, they go on a bad trip and they lose their minds. If somebody had it and they gave it to me, and it's just a piece of paper you put on your tongue. I didn't even think it was a big thing, like a miniature stamp. And it gave me complete clarity of how I was destroying my life. I mean, it gave me insight it was scary, the insight it gave me. So that was, an experience I had, and I didn't want to do that again because it was too painful to look at myself with no veneer.
But you needed to do that.
It's part of my
kind of
story.
needed it in a way.
It was part of my story. It happened.
And then one of the great things that's pretty amazing is you originally tried to fast and you couldn't do it.
Right.
Then you tried again.
Yes.
And you were able to. And for the last 2 years, you've been fasting.
A little bit longer than that now.
A little bit longer
Yeah,
than that.
about 825 days
That's
of
all?
direct.
825.
And you
Yeah.
eat once a
I
day.
ate once a day.
And you've lost over 71 pounds.
71 pounds to be exact, but it's not only the 71 pounds, it's how I feel. I was a garbage pail, Pac-Man. I would just eat all day. And if I'm spiking my insulin all day and I've got food in my mouth, I'm not living. So for me, and I'm not an advocate to tell anybody how to live their life, but this works for me. I can't do 6 small meals a day because what you're going to do is going to get the lion in me that wants to eat. When I break bread, I want to eat. So with 1 hour meal, and Mike and Tara seen it last night.
He ate about six people's.
I had a multi-course meal last night, which was all healthy stuff. But within that confines of an hour, I eat my meal, and I'm done. So I'm living my life in a fasting
I had to
state.
tell Charlie they're not taking your dish.
No.
I was like that.
Got your,
No, I do chew.
He
I
was-
do chew. I
he
do
did-
chew.
He was getting there.
Yeah.
He was getting.
I do take my food
He was
serious when I do
getting
eat. When I do eat the once, I do once a day, and
was
I
getting-
do.
Listen to me. I have a dog, Guido.
Yeah.
When we feed him, he's like a rocket. He's a show dog.
just like Charlie.
he can. This dog can. Inhale a bowl in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Guido.
He eats it so fast that it gets stuck up his nose, and then
He's
have
just like
to-
a nut.
I have to pat his back to get.
So
the
I
nose
understand. I understand. So yeah, so I do that. I do cardio 4 or 5 days a week. I like to spin bike. I like doing that for myself and stretch. I take 0 meds, man. I take 0 meds. I feel now at this point in my life, if I have pain that I need ibuprofen, I don't do it. I take cold showers. I take cold baths. The pool was open into November. I was swimming with 53-degree weather because I'm doing everything I can naturally to reduce inflammation, to keep my heart in good shape, and to live in a position of compassion because a lot of grace has been shown me, a lot of grace.
And correct me if I'm wrong. And the cold shower and the fasting thing and some of the other things that you do, you had felt that was a result of the acid of you looking from the outside in. Some of the things I should
Well,
say.
I never forgot that acid trip, and this is a long time ago. I never forgot the experience I had with that. It peeled back some layers of the onion that I had never saw myself. People don't really view themselves as we see them. There's a saying, there's the real you, there's the you that the public sees, there's the you that you see when you look in the mirror, and then there's the real you. And I got a glimpse of the real me one time, and I'll tell you what, I wanted to shut that door as quick as possible. So Tommy, what I'm doing today is I'm facing myself. I don't care what anybody says about me, and they have a right to say something. See, in the old days, I might be, hey, that person doesn't like me. Well, I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I could have offended you, my decorum, whatever. Today, I live a life of no fear. I live a life of not wondering or biting my nails or this and that. Tommy, a New York guy, and this is, don't get mad, New York guys. A lot of us New York guys at 230 pounds are scared to pick up the phone. Who's that on the other end of the phone? Here's another thing I noticed when I went to Nebraska. Nobody ever leaves their name. Everybody's anonymous. I learned in Nebraska, man, without saying your first and last name, you're a coward. This is my name. I'm making a complaint. This is my name. I'm saying something good. So between having the courage to leave my name, having the courage of not living in fear, I'm not trying to figure out the next move. See, I used to always try to figure out the next move. If I say this, I'm going to move this out of line. Everything I'm doing is bringing me a clearer picture of who this guy is and to meet myself. I don't want to die without knowing who I am.
Now, have you seen a major change in Charlie since you've met him?
Well, when I first met him, he was 240 pounds. So physically, he's changed quite a bit. And in the last 3 months that we've been communicating, he's peeling that onion back. And he's, he's making a big difference. And he's actually making me more aware of some of my own shortcomings. But
in a good way.
In a good way. Yeah. And
well,
I'm
look,
trying
if
to
you could fast for 2 years straight.
I'm trying to become more of a compassionate.
Yeah.
I'm trying to become more of a compassionate human being, even though I might not sound that to others at times. And I'm doing the best I can on a daily basis. And we all listen. The lesson I get from Charlie is the ugly duckling dog is got love, and you can learn to love it. I tell a story, and I told you once before, the Nigerian in prison told me how to use a screw gun. I wanted to kill him. Who are you to tell me from New York City how to use a screw gun? So anybody can teach. I mean, I was born with a screw gun in my hand, and this guy was teaching me how to use a screw gun in a better way. And I did my own internal insecurities. It was prison. I wanted to kill him. So I had to temper myself and realize that anybody in this world can teach us a lesson. So
I got a bunch of work at the house if you can use a screw gun the right way if you want.
Yeah.
So now let's give a tribute to Star, and then we'll end it with you telling me what your future plans are and everything else. So go through the slides, and Charlie, just say a little something about each one.
Okay.
Go to the thing there. Keep going. Right there. Okay, we'll start here. So right here, Nebraska man saves pit bull.
Sorry.
You gonna pick one, or are we gonna? Nebraska man saves pit bull shot by NYPD. What's this? Life with dogs. And then Charlie, you say something about the rest of them as we go through them.
Yep. So that's basically me coming out and telling the Gothamist, and then the thing going in 9 different directions. So Life with Dogs picked up the story, and that's about a little bit more after a year of having her secretly at my house. So not to confuse anybody, that's a picture of her when she had 2 eyes, obviously. So they picked a stock photo out of her.
That was prior her to the incident. Okay,
a short time prior.
Okay, and go ahead, Char.
Okay, pit bull shot by New York police, recovering, not ready for home yet. This is the People magazine inquiring with the Mayor's Alliance as to what's going to happen with the dog. And she's secretly at this point going to be heading down to Philadelphia and going away. This is shortly after the surgery of her having her eye removed.
Now, Mike, do you remember reading this stuff in the paper?
I remember. I don't read the paper anymore, but I remember hearing about it.
Hearing about it?
Yeah, I remember hearing about it, and we're all busy with our own lives, but I remember the scene of the shooting was being played somewhere, whether it was on online or on TV. I don't remember if PIX was playing it or something like that. So I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the time also I remember hearing about it. I remember hearing about a dog being shot, but I didn't know. Which one. Okay, go to the next one.
That was the ugly scene of her laying motionless, and this was shortly after she was shot. This was, a small time, 13 days, and they had to reverse course, making a speeding recovery. She did make a speedy recovery.
I can't believe that dog survived.
Yeah. This was the initial headline that day that went out. Police shoot and kill, lunging at people on Manhattan's East Side. This is the headline. This is what I was seeing when I was believing she was alive.
Something I forgot to mention, Charlie. So when I was reading through these, there was 25 officers at the scene. Mm-hmm. Not one of them went over to help the guy or the dog. Yeah. Not one. No. Nor did any of the people that were standing around.
I think that
I would have.
It was a horror scene. If I was there, if Mike was there, if you were there, I think that it was just so god awful what occurred, and that people just repelled. They just didn't know what to do.
If I was a cop at that scene, I would have ran. Away.
But I mean,
I would not have want to been.
No, as a citizen.
I would want a citizen to look at me and say, "What are you doing? Why are you doing nothing right now?" First of all, I don't know what to do for the dog. Right. Secondly, this homeless guy, and they probably knew him. You might attest to that.
Yeah.
He's probably known for him and his dog. So the guys that showed up, went, I got to get the hell out of here now.
It was a bad scene.
Yeah,
it was a bad scene.
So that's what I know the cops' mentality at that scene.
And
I mean, you as a person.
As a human being, you have to.
Tommy,
How could you not?
Tommy, this dog had such intellect, man. First of all, I mean, what does an average dog know? 200 words. This dog she knew stuff like there was no.
She knew commands.
She knew but also she knew this, Tommy. I'd say to her, "Let's go." She knew we're gonna go take a bath and we're gonna go give a talk. This dog literally smiled when I give talks.
Well, you did rescue her.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Next one.
This is just another scene from that ugly scene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No
Go
big.
ahead.
This is another form of this is Ben Yankis. This is what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Gothamist. How a Nebraska man rescued a dog shot by the NYPD. For people that want to know the intricacies of how I did it, they can look at this article.
And that's GOTHAMIST.com. Okay, go to the next one.
This is a really happy. Jen had formed the
That's a good picture.
Star Project, and now the local newspaper of 300,000 people in Lincoln decided to come and do an interview at the house. I love New York, so what I did was, in Nebraska, they make the signs for the roads. And that's a real sign that they were able to make for me. So I have a sign, so Star knew she was in New York or Brooklyn, and that it was a real sign that they copied for the sign that would have been in New York, me growing up. Going down the Southern State Parkway, always seeing that sign on the Meadowbrook that always showed you New York ahead east. So that was important to me to have that.
Mike, you think we'll ever get a sign?
I think they have few signs with my name on it that I don't really want. Them. No.
Go ahead. Next one.
He was one of the greatest days.
This is
Wesleyan University. The professor, after Star had made a lot of news and knew that I was her owner, she said, "Look, would you like to come to college and teach my journalism class?"
That's cool.
I have a few requirements. Star has to be there, and she doesn't have to be on any leash. I want her to meet the class. I want these future journalists.
You know, it's amazing that a dog that went through everything that she went through can be around people calmly and nicely.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean,
Yes.
Charlie? I mean,
Just like Charlie, he's still around people calmly.
Well,
and
the
nicely.
thing is, that's a very good thing, Tommy, you did, because I rescue a lot of dogs, and some dogs never get the isms or whatever happened to them gone. Star always kept her head up high like that, and it was always very, very happy. And Tommy, here's something else about her. She was really a celebrity. Star gave you a little bit of attention when she met you, and then she turned it off. So basically,
she knew the card.
She knew the card. So she
effing dog knew the
smiled.
card.
She give you a little perk, and then it was over with. It was over with
just
that
like
soon.
me.
Yeah.
You get like we want money. You got a bone?
Yeah.
All right, see you.
All right, gotta go.
So that's that.
On to the next one.
All right, go ahead.
This is a big day, Tom.
That's a great picture.
Okay, so what happened here was Nebraska television out in the they have a day show like Good Morning whatever, Good Morning Nebraska.
There's the 240.
Yeah. So so they asked me to come on the show, and Star was never very affectionate. Let me tell you this, Tommy.
No.
That wouldn't be her. Listen, she
I can't imagine.
didn't play the dog and pony show. Okay, so for the cameras, she would do that. But
She did it for the camera.
Yeah, she only did that for the cameras.
Yeah.
There was attention. She was all playing. That was not her usual demeanor. I used to always say to
Oh, they didn't prop that.
no.
Oh, okay. I thought they propped that.
No, they asked me some questions, and then she.
That's time. She said, "Oh, it's time.
It's fine.
It's time for the shoot."
But that was not. She's giving me kisses there. That is not her normal demeanor.
This freaking dog is like my kid.
Yeah, she's smart. She's a smart dog.
No one
Yeah,
smile.
it plays you.
Stand out.
It
Thank
cries
you.
like it's like
That's
it's having a tough time, and then the second you touch it, it's fine.
So Tommy, Andy Warhol's.
I'll get killed. If I
Andy-
say it, it's
Yeah.
not it.
Her.
Her.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. But I thought being in Nebraska when I left New York, I was going to live a life of obscurity, and I always used to be the guy who said, "Andy Warhol, you're so wrong. We don't all get our 15 minutes of fame. I had a wild life in New York, and I'm in Nebraska, and I'm never going to have anything talked about. I had no idea this was coming."
That's a great pick. Great pick. And that's when that was before the fasting, I assume.
Yes,
As Mike tried to slip in.
that was eating. Your 6 to 7. I'm capable of 7,000 calories a day. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
This is just it was a constant parade of media. This is
Look at interviewing the dog.
This is a media coming to our home. to talk about the dog she's rescuing, and she's loving it. Star's going along with the the reporters.
She's hamming it up.
Yeah, she's hamming it up.
She's hamming it up.
And this is a police officer's sister who was on a plane, came to visit out in Iowa. And this is a guy that was a Washington, D.C. guy. And she was coming out to visit some people in Iowa. And she found this magazine, and she couldn't believe the dog was in there.
Oh, wow.
It
That's
was a
pretty
big deal.
cool.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Go to the next one.
Okay, here we are. I'm definitely beefing up here. I'm definitely over 241 here.
It's not 240. You look better at 240. It's about 260.
Yeah, I'm pushing some heavy.
Mike just killed you.
I'm pushing some heavy numbers here, and it's amazing I can get up to those weights. So here's the deal. So Jen's really involved with the Alzheimer's, okay? And here's what happened. I decided to bring Star to the first meeting, to the first walk, and Jen knew about it. But once the media knew that she was there, they highlighted her over the walk. So if you go to Channel 8, they say, hey, by the way, it's the annual walk, but we have a very famous dog or whatever they said. And that was Channel 8, and they said, go ahead, why don't you interview your dog? So Star, here's a dog, a New York City street dog. They got a tutu. John put a tutu on her, and she's going along with us. And Tommy, she didn't like it, but she did it.
Star loves that microphone and that camera.
Yeah, she did. So there you go.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's going back to the beginning. That's another shot.
That's what I'm saying. When you go back there, go to the next one.
Yeah.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
You see all those people just standing there? Like, I see me personally, and I think, Mike, I could speak for you as well, as a not as a cop, as a citizen, I don't think I could just stand there and look at that.
It's hard.
And nor would I walk
It's
away
an
from
awkward.
it.
It's an awkward.
But I'm sure it would have been a situation with the police trying to help out.
It's awkward.
But Tommy, let me say this to you. I think that we need that awakening. Look at that dog. It's lights out.
But it's like, what the hell? The dog's laying there. Nobody cares. The man's laying there. Nobody cares. They're just looking at it like, okay, can I get this video on my phone?
There was a lot of police officers there. There was undercover cops there. There was a lot of cops there.
But why the hell don't they pick the guy up? Help the dog. Like, jeez.
Tommy, I got to tell you something.
I've done the scene.
It's a disgusting picture. I'm sorry.
Secure the scene.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Needs to be seen, but disgusting.
It's a horrible position to be in.
But here's the thing.
Been there, not.
There's going to be people that are always going to have opinions.
Doesn't look good. Doesn't feel good.
I think for my own health, my spiritual health, I had to listen. We got a saying in corrections. I don't know if they use it in police. We don't win every fight. We win the overall fights, but there are days we don't win. Okay, we know when to disengage. Okay, the yard is turning on us. We know to disengage. I had, as a young correctional officer, an inmate would do something, and I wanted to run after him and get him. And the seasoned correctional officer said, no, we know where they live. We'll show up at the house later. This yard can turn on you. I had to do the same thing. I had to disengage.
Yeah.
And I knew my limit, and my job is not to be in an adversarial role with the largest police department in the country, although it wasn't fear that had me, it was a spiritual health. And once I neutralized on this opinion, the situation really worked out the way it was supposed to.
Well, looking at it again, what the important thing is that she lived, you found her, and she lived the best life possible after this.
Yes.
Next one?
No, that was all. It's over.
Okay. Well, no, that's the one I wanted to end on because I thought that was really.
This is her.
Cute.
This is her. So okay, so the Lincoln Journal Star comes out, and now she's got some dogs that have been rescued on her name. There's a lot of dogs. 11th hour, they're going to be euthanized.
Pretty dog.
They're pretty. So they come out and they say to her, "Hey, look, we're going to come visit you, Star." She loved the entertainment, and she gave that bit. Now, Star was a very finicky eater. She didn't look like one there, Tommy. She did not like, you couldn't give her chicken, you couldn't give her meat. She loved peanut butter drizzled over crunchy broccoli, Tommy, crunchy broccoli. That was her deal.
Did you put peanut butter on her nose so you could watch it lick the
listen,
tongue?
no. Listen, the thing was, she loved peanut butter.
Show.
But look how happy that dog was. That was my kid, man.
See?
That was, you know what? That was not just my kid. That dog affected people. That dog, when she went to be cremated, she was missing hair because I was always taking hair off of her to send to children's parents that requested some hope. She was a lightning rod of hope.
Beautiful.
People that were sick wanted something.
She changed the face of pit bulls.
Oh,
She changed the face and the belief of pit bulls in the world. Really.
That dog's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
That's
that
what
dog
Star.
saved-
Star's a star
saved
for being a
thousands of dogs'
lifesaver. After you
lives.
read everything,
Tommy, and let me say
I
this
would
to
have
you.
never gone to a pit bull in my life until I have known about
Sure.
the
me neither.
Never.
I agree with you.
Tommy, and let me tell you this too. She was a strong, strong dog. Don't let that jovial smile, because we rescued a lot of dogs. We've had dogs that don't have good manners, that try to get a little feisty. She was the alpha dog. That dog was tough. She was calm, and she was like a Buddha.
I know a woman like that too.
Yeah. Tommy, let me tell you something. The platform you've given me to tell this story, to have all the moving parts. Brother, this is the greatest thing I could do, because I want to leave a legacy of hope for others.
I appreciate you doing it on here. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
I'm an animal lover. I like like I was telling you, I like animals way better than people. 100 times better than people. So I'm honored to be the one that, we talk about this with you and everything else. And so what are you going to do from now on to keep her legacy? I know you got the book, the kids book, which is great. You got the coloring book. That's awesome.
Yes.
That was a great idea.
It's really simple what I'm going to do the next thing going forward. I'm going to do the next right thing that is the next right thing, and that is to continue the path that seems right. Promoting her story, helping the alcoholic addict of any background. It could be now police officers, fellow correctional officers, the person obviously down and out on the street. I've always gone to bat for them. They obviously need help. So that's that. And promoting my book, 14th and 2nd, when it gets released soon, to try to change lives, Tommy.
Excellent, excellent. And if there is a child or even an adult that wants, a picture or hair, something to keep them going on, where can they go to get that?
Well, they can reach out to me on Instagram, Charlie Cifarelli. They could reach out to The Luckiest Dog That Ever Lived, Came Back to Life. It's on YouTube, and my emails at the Star Project's there, Charlie at the Star Project.
Has Disney reached out yet?
Well, they should, because I'll tell you something. The children need to hear this story, because nobody and nothing in this world is perfect, and this dog was not perfect, but she was perfect.
Did you call Hoffman back yet?
Oh,
The film
Hoffman
guy?
knows. He knows.
You should stay on him.
Yeah.
There's bigger fish out there. I hate him to put it. He's
Don't say it. Hoffman actually knew people with that worked at Disney.
dropped the ball then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
Okay.
I mean
Sorry.
there's no way this shouldn't turn
Sorry,
into
he
something.
dropped the ball. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Hey.
You're in your route.
Yeah. So, all right. So with that, then, thank you for coming in, Charlie. Who's that, Mike? I guarantee that's Mike's phone. He did that last time.
Right.
Who's that? Anyway.
That's his
Oh.
buddy.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you, Mike, for being here. You got anything else to say?
Thing is on off. The ringer.
You got anything to say, Mike?
I'm happy to have gotten to know the depth of Charlie. It's really an interesting unraveling, what he would call unpacking, and I'm really happy. I'm really I think I found a really great friend now, and an advocate for each other, which is really important in life.
And he's obviously here to help you out.
He's here to help me out, and you know what? I didn't force this. It's not my will, and it really is not my. And it wasn't his will to save my life, with going to these retreats or whatever. So we met by not chance. There was an angel in the form of a retired New York City cop that put us together.
He's helped me a lot too, and
Who just
a lot,
called in,
a lot
by
of
the way. I'm
things.
sorry.
Yeah, listen. I think we're going to see a better side of him continue to evolve.
Yeah,
And you know what? He knows where he was.
yeah.
And you know something? At this point, at our age now, we've been to hell and back, and it's time to live in some grace.
I'll say one thing about Mike. I found out since I've met him, he's done a lot for me that I didn't know. So in other words, there's a lot of things he may have done for you, and I know I found out over time he's done for me that I never knew. So he's not like the type of guy that says, "Oh, Charlie, I did this for you."
Right.
He just does it quietly, and if you ever find out, you find out. If you never do, you never do. But since I've met him, I found out a lot of things he's done for me. So I'm sure he's doing a lot for you that you don't realize yet. And Star, she's the show, man.
She is the show.
She saved your life.
She saved my life.
And it's a great story. I can tell the love and emotion you have for her. And
My baby.
And your baby's still here. She lives
right.
on. She's not
There
going
you go.
nowhere.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
She's not going anywhere, buddy.
No, she's not.
And you can come on anytime you want to push anything you want to promote it. I'm more than happy. And I really like that coloring book. For some reason, I guess because I have a daughter now, that coloring book's cool.
Tommy, we'll make sure you have them. We'll make sure they're signed, and I'll make sure they come.
Yep, and you get that on Amazon.com.
And the 14th and 2nd, can we have a copy to read?
As soon as we go out the
Tara's
copies,
been trying.
she'll have one. I just got the last edit going on.
Trying to read it. I won't.
Yeah,
she will.
She will. And Tommy, you got Amazon. I'm a star. Book.com.
Pull that up. The tab with Amazon.
I'm a star.com.
Go to Chrome. Go ahead while she pulls it up.
I'm a star book.com, and then you could get the children's book, and then you could get the coloring book.
So right here we have the regular children's book, $12 on Amazon.
Yep.
And then it's just like
the great stocking stuffer for this time of year.
Yeah.
If this comes out.
Yeah, and so
great stocking stuffer.
So I'm a starbook.com is Star's website, and then you could just put in I'm a Star book in Amazon, and you could order them.
And right there it is.
Yeah, and if you get it off of her imastarbook.com, I could write a personal message to whoever wants it written if a kid wants it.
What a way to spend the holiday weekend coming.
Yeah.
Reading this little book to some children. That would be really cool.
It really would.
That really would be cool. Hopefully we can get this out there.
And get it from amastar.com, because then you can get it signed and noted, and it's just more it's cooler, you know.
It's nice that it's on Amazon.
So then when you read it, when you
touch.
play with your child, when he or she is older, you could say, "Hey, look, remember that book you covered? This
cool.
was the dog."
This is pretty cool. I'm a little disappointed I don't have a Star book, but
and he was on MSCS
I'm going to work
Media.
on one. I just got to find a dog. I got to go the whole process, man.
You writing a children's book? You better talk to Charlie.
What?
I'm just messing with you.
I got people.
Well, Tommy, as you know, I mean, look at this dog, what she's done for me, from East New York to the penitentiary to being involved with children's books, and she showed me the path.
I don't think you'd be sitting here dressed very properly,
and I hate
with
to
a
say
very
this,
nice
this
watch and
piss
very
him
nice
off,
shoes.
but
I don't think you would have any of that without this dog.
No, that's
you also
true.
have a brother back in your life.
Yes, and I have
this dog.
Yeah, I have a brother back in my life. A lot of stuff has happened.
Yeah.
Good, Tommy.
The more and more I hear, that dog saved your life more than you saved her life.
Without a doubt. And you know what? I'm a good citizen now. I mean, listen, neighbors wave to me. I go down the path of life, not a taker, as a giver. And I'm just doing my life the right way.
And with that, Star, the celebrity, not us.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
Thanks, Charlie.